Stand up, New York Giant fans. We're coming to you live today on the LockedOn Giants podcast on this NFL Draft Eve. And joining me is going to be Chris, DaEntertainah, Guzzo. We're going to talk Giants draft. We're going to talk Giants roster, all things Giants. We'll take your questions and we'll just go as long as we can on this special live edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast, brought to you in part by BlueNile.com. That's coming up next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Giant fans? Welcome to a live edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. Patricia Traina here with you live and in the flesh, joined by the one and only entertainer, Chris Guzzo. Christopher, my friend, happy draftee, however you term it. It is a holiday for Giant fans. Are you as excited as I am about this?
I am. I'm actually very excited. I'm so excited that I even said today on Twitter before we did this live that I already know I'm not going to get much sleep tonight. I'm probably going to go do a Twitter space for an hour just to talk to people because I'm so excited. I'm not going to be able to get the draft off my mind. I've been thinking about the draft, since like week 8 last year, which has become way too familiar for Giants fans. Took a little bit of a break there because it was starting to die down. But this last 2 weeks, I've started to get really excited, and it came up, really quick. And the Giants got 2 top 7 picks. So if you're a Giants fan, how could you not be excited going into this first draft as well for a new regime? So I'm really excited to see what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll do.
As am I. And of course, I've been spending all week long getting some material together, keeping my ear to the ground on some rumors, some scenarios. So a lot of stuff to talk about. And as always, folks, if you have questions, you know what to do. Pop them in the comment section. Chris and I will get to them. And we'll just go as long as we can tonight. Probably about between 60 and 90 minutes tonight. But hey, we're going to have fun. It's here. Let's get into it. Chris, we got to start off with the first round. I think, we all can agree that it's going to be offensive tackle. The question is which, it better be offensive tackle. If it is not, I'm going to throw my remote at the screen in the press room. So the question is which offensive tackle? Now, the report just came out, I think a couple of days ago, about some medical concerns about Evan Neal, which I personally think is just, somebody floating something to get the kid to drop, which, happens all the time this time of year. I've been hearing Ike Ekwonu may go early before the Giants even go on the clock. What do you think is going to happen with offensive tackle?
Yeah, I think the Evan Neal thing you brought up, I think somebody came out and said that it was bogus on Twitter as well. So I don't know who to believe. I'm not going to read too much into that. I don't think it should affect his draft stock too much. As far as what I prefer Evan Neal. I think he's my OT1. I think he's the safest. I personally think Ekwonu may have the highest ceiling. And Charles Cross may fit the system the best. So I think he can make arguments for all 3 of them. A lot of Giants fans are completely against Charles Cross, and I understand it. He's not as fun to watch on tape. He's not necessarily as mean. He has some question marks in terms of the run blocking department, but they did run an air raid scheme there while he was at college. So we'll see ultimately who they choose. As a Giants fan, I just want them to get one of the guys for sure, and I'm going to trust Joe Schoen to make the selection he feels fits what their offensive philosophy is going to be. Now, I actually looked at the Vegas odds about an hour ago because I'm just curious to see what people think we're going to do. And they have Charles Cross as the favorite. I think he was like about plus 170. I think the next closest was about plus 250. So right now, at least according to Vegas, they have Charles Cross as a slight favorite to land with the New York Giants at 5th overall.
Yeah, and of course, the Giants did a lot of work on all 3 of the tackles. It's too soon to say for sure what the visits mean. Usually we read the tea leaves with the pro day visits. Joe Schoen at all 3 offensive tackles pro days. But, I have to float this out here because it's come up. If they go with Charles Cross, he's, I believe, mostly a left tackle in college. Mm-hmm. Does that mean you would consider, or you would be thrilled if they just said, okay, you know what, we'll plug him in at left tackle, we'll move Andrew Thomas over to the right side? Would that sit well with you?
Listen, Joe Shane's going to come in. I'm going to let him, as a fan, I have no choice but to let him make the decision. I'm going to hope the decisions that he makes are right. I have to realize as a fan and people that are watching this podcast that he has nothing to do with Andrew Thomas. He wasn't here when they drafted Andrew Thomas. Do I think it's the wisest decision? No. My preference would be that Andrew Thomas stays on the left side. And I would assume if they took Cross that it would be to play on the right side and they would feel he'd be fully capable of doing so. He played on the right side at his pro day. Like you said, he hasn't played on the right side at the collegiate level. But if they were to take Cross, you'd have to at least think it's at least a small possibility that they could play Cross on the left side and switch Thomas over to the right, especially being that Shane never drafted Thomas. But the job that Thomas did on the left side last year, I see no reason to shift him. He's a guy that's grown with the football team, and last year was one of the better tackles in the sport on the blind side. So I would prefer, if he's capable and the Giants feel like he could do a good job, Charles Cross playing on the right side if they were to draft him.
I would prefer that too, but you know what? I don't think we can rule out the possibility of a move for Andrew Thomas. Now, remember, before Andrew Thomas got penciled in as a rookie at left tackle, he was training to play on the right side. And then Nate Solder opted out, as we know. And, that kind of blew that plan up, in smoke. So, look, I just want to make it clear. I am not a fan of the thought of moving Andrew Thomas if they do that. But that being said, they've got Bobby Johnson, who's, a pretty good offensive line coach. Remember, Bobby Johnson, I think in all the time he was with Buffalo, I don't think they ever drafted a first-round offensive lineman, and he got that unit playing pretty well. So I'd like to think they finally got a good offensive line coach who can come in, who can develop these guys, regardless of who they are or what round they're taken, and turn them into a formidable unit, because I am sick and tired of watching human turnstiles.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's been a joke. And what gets me excited, if we're making a change at the quarterback spot, and hopefully not, hopefully Danny Jones is great this year, but if we have to in 2023, he's going to inherit, if we take a tackle this year, a much better situation than what Daniel Jones inherited. And I think that has to be the primary focus in this year's draft. And if they get another tackle at 5, I'll be super excited. My preference is Neal, but I'll be happy with any of the 3.
Well, the good thing about Evan Neal is he's versatile. You can plug him in at tackle, and then next year, same with Ekwonu. But I don't know. I'm seeing more and more that there's less of a chance that Ekwonu may fall down to the Giants at 5. But let's talk about the 7th pick here, because this is going to kind of piggyback off this whole thing here. So my understanding, or what I've been hearing with the rumors, the reports, whatever you want to call them, is the Giants are going to sit tight at 5. So any hope that I might have had of, them trading down at 5 for a quarterback needy team to get ahead of Carolina, up in smoke. That's not happening. I don't think, at any rate. I mean, unless it's an offer that Shane can't refuse. But right at 7, now here's the thing. They should be able to get a good defensive player at 7. There's a possibility that Oregon's Thibodeau might be on the board. There's a possibility Kyle Hamilton might be there. One of the cornerbacks, either Sauce or Stingley, might be there. But yet there's also an increasing possibility that they may move down. Pittsburgh, the GM, Kevin Colbert, let it slip the other day that he inquired about what it would cost to move up to 7. Yeah. So that's got tongues wagging. I saw a report today that Seattle might look to move up. I mean, saw that. Yeah. There was one other team. Who was the other team that might look to move up?
Probably Atlanta.
Might have been Atlanta or the Saints. It was one of those two. Yeah. So that being said, I mean, would you want the Giants to move down if they could get a sweetheart of a deal? Or do you just say, too many holes on this team. Let's stand pat. Let's get a stud, preferably on defense.
I think you always listen no matter what. I think you always pick up the phone. You always listen. And it all depends on who's there and how you evaluate the players. Do you think there's a couple of players there that you really like and you could get a guy that you feel is somewhat equal if you trade down 2 spots, say to 9 with Seattle? If you do and you could get a decent package, I think you entertain the trade. But I think it all depends on who's available for you. I personally am not looking, if I'm the general manager for the Giants, I'm not in love with the idea of trading all the way back down to 20 from 7. Like, to me, that is a huge drop. And you better be getting a hell of a package if you're doing something like that. I think something like 5 to 8 or 7 and 9, I think something like that is much more feasible than dropping all the way down to 20. If you drop from 7 and 9, maybe you get a second round pick and you still get yourself a guy like Stingley or Hamilton or a difference maker on the defensive side. And You get yourself another draft pick in this year's draft. Not to mention, we're going to probably be getting another draft pick because James Bradbury will probably be traded at. Well, I don't know if he'll be traded on draft night. If we don't get an extra draft pick this year, it may be in the following draft, but you have to at least be open to the possibility that may happen on draft night as well, that Bradbury may be traded.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what happens. I know somebody asked that before we started, what's the latest with Bradbury? Right now, all quiet on the Western Front, as they say. But, going back to your point about trading down and how far down, I think if they trade down to 20, you might hear me scream for wherever you're located, because that means a longer night for me. I'm looking forward to a short night. Although, I had a weird thought. I said to myself, wouldn't it be a kick in the butt if the Giants decided to trade back into the bottom of the first round, because there's benefit there. They can get rid of some of the lower picks, maybe an upgrade, get an extra first round pick. And then what will end up happening, obviously, is you'll be able to get the 3 players on the 50-year option, which, it's cost effective down the line. So I wouldn't be surprised if that scenario happens. I had heard that mentioned as a possibility, but right now there's just so much smoke that I'm just choking on all this smoke, literally.
I think it's very possible that can happen. And I talked about that a couple of months ago. It was like my dream scenario is if one of these interior offensive linemen drops to the 28-29 range, you've got teams with multiple first round picks, teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Packers. Do you trade up and get a player like that? But we'll see. I think there's so many different possibilities regarding trades. I don't think we're going to have a blockbuster trade, though. I really don't, because I don't see a team, and maybe I'll be proven wrong on draft night. Maybe somebody is absolutely head over heels in love with Malik Willis and they don't feel they're going to be able to get him. But I don't see a team be willing to move, heaven and earth to be able to move to move up and get one of these quarterbacks. I do think the Steelers, because that's kind of been the team that's been rumored that has really been interested in a guy like Malik Willis, may potentially look to trade up, but I don't think they're going to be willing to give up what it would take to move up to 7. I could see them, if Willis trickles down to the 12, 13, 14 range, maybe looking to trade up at that point, but I don't think they're going to make that big of a leap, and I don't think the Giants will trade that far back either.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, and not just because I'm being selfish, because I'm there the whole night anyway, but I just hope not. I mean, get 2 studs if you can, get an offensive tackle, get a good, if you can get an edge rusher or a stud cornerback, just do it. I mean, don't get cute. It would have to blow me away, the offer. And thank God I don't have to make the decision, by the way. I want to add that. But I'm talking, for me, I've always said, if you can get an extra first round pick next year, that I think would make me move the needle. But
I will say, though, and I agree with you, like that to me is the objective. If I'm trading down, I want to get that future first round pick. I don't know if the Steelers are the ideal team to do it with, because the Steelers are probably going to win at least 8 or 9 games. They always do. They've got a good defense. They've got Mitch Trubisky, who could play. A lot of people think they'd start the rookie quarterback. If they take Malik Willis, he'd probably sit behind Trubisky for a year, and he'd mentor him. So I don't know how high that draft pick would be. Like last year with the Bears, we ended up getting the 7th pick. It'd probably be right around when the Steelers are picking this year, where it's at like 20, which is even more of a reason why I wouldn't be like absolutely in love with that scenario. Now, if I was getting 2 additional second-round picks with the extra first, we're talking. But I'd have to be absolutely blown away to fall back that far.
And this class, this is a deep class. So you know what? If I get, if I'm Shane and I get an opportunity to get more picks in that top 75, top 100 range, I think I would go for it. I mean, obviously it would depend on the package, but, ideally I would love an extra first round pick. So, for next year at any rate, because you may have to get a quarterback, you never know. But anyway, folks, we are going to answer some of your questions. If you have them, just pop them into the comments section. So let's do this, Christopher. Let's start off with one from Terry Bay, who asked, do you think the team will pick up Jones's 50-year option? Now, there was a report by Diana Rossini of ESPN earlier today. Diana said that the team will meet tomorrow to discuss it. No surprise, that decision's got to be made by next Tuesday anyhow, so not exactly breaking news. But that being said, Chris, I don't think the Giants pick up Jones's 50-year option. And I know some people are like, well, they've got to, because otherwise look at the cost of the franchise tag. Well, at that point, folks, you extend him. And this is a matter of, understanding the cap. As I see it, if you pick up Jones's 50-year option, that money now becomes guaranteed. So then if you go and you try to extend him, let's say he balls out and you want to extend him to lower his number, you have to make sure that you're paying him the equivalent of the guaranteed money that he would be getting in the option year. So you're really not saving money if you do that. I know a lot of people say, well, it's a $10 million difference. You're not really saving money in the, at the end of the day. That said, Chris, what do you think? Should they pick up the 5th-year option?
No. And I understand, I guess, the argument that some people may make that if he has a good year, like you said, it's going to cost you $8 or $9 more million to franchise tag him. But I'm willing to take that chance. And if he proves me wrong, not even proves me wrong, but if he proves that he's worthy of another year, I will eat that extra $8 or $9 million, or potentially, like you said, extend him if he really impresses. But I'm not taking those options off the table. But I'm also, if I'm Joe Schoen, a guy that had nothing to do with bringing Daniel Jones in here in the first place, there's no way in hell I'm further committing myself to a quarterback I did not draft that has missed 13 games in his first 3 years in the NFL and has not had much success, whether it be due to himself or the team around him. We're going to find that out this year, but I need to find that out first before I further commit myself to Daniel Jones.
Now, along those lines, while we're on the topic of 5th-year option, a lot of people don't ask about Dexter Lawrence, and his option has to be, decided on as well. That's a guy I might pick up that option. I think that's about $10 million. Yep. We're not talking a whole lot. The cap situation is going to be a little bit better next year. And, I don't know. I would pick it up. I mean, unless, the Giants feel that they're going to have something with Ellerson Smith there, or maybe they'll pick up another defensive end to eventually replace Lawrence. I mean, certainly they do need a nose tackle. They need a guy who could play that 0 and 1 technique position. But, I would pick up Dexter Lawrence's option. I mean, I don't think the guy's missed any games. He hasn't quite developed into the pass rusher I think everybody thought he might be able to be. But then again, I'm just trying to remember, he wasn't much of a pass rusher at Clemson. So pretty much what we're getting now is kind of what he was at Clemson, right?
Yeah, I mean, we thought he was, when we drafted him, at least I thought he was going to play in the interior. And then I remember when Gettleman brought him in for training camp, they started playing him on the outside. I'm like, wow, 335-pound nose tackle. So that they kind of moved him around a bit. He's been a good player. He has not exceeded or probably even met the 17th overall selection, but he's certainly been a good player for the New York Giants. I'm not going to say he's been bad, but all I'm going to say for people that say that we shouldn't extend him on the 5th-year option, let me ask you this: next year, you're into the cap. Next year, the cap traditionally goes up by what, 10%?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's going. What is it now?
We'll say 10%.
We'll say 10%. Yeah, I don't remember the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. I can
look
it up.
It's 208. This year it's 208. So next year it'll be
I think it's going to be 225 next year. I think that's
we'll say 225. 225. Yeah. So about 8-10%. So add 8-10% on top of Austin Johnson's contract this year. He got a contract for $7 million a season. In next year's market, that will be worth about $8 or $8.5 million. You're telling me Dexter Lawrence is not worth $1.5 million more than Austin Johnson? I beg to differ. And it's only a 1-year commitment. So it's not like you're extending this guy for 3, 4, 5 years. I think it does make sense for the New York Giants to extend Dexter Lawrence on the 5th-year option. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't, because they didn't draft the guy. And maybe they drafted an interior defensive lineman early in this year's draft. But I do think it could make financial sense. The market for the interior defensive line was much higher this offseason than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, by the way. See, you're learning the salary cap. You've been hanging around me, and you're learning the salary cap. Good show, my friend. All right, I think J.C. Silva, you asked it who the Seahawks quarterback is. It's Geno Smith and Drew Lock, right, Chris? Do I have that right?
I think you're right on that. Yes.
Didn't they just sign? I think they just signed.
Well, they traded for Lock, and I think
they traded for Lock. The Russell Wilson trade. And they just signed Geno, I think, to a 1-year deal. So I think that's their quarterback rotation. They might have a third guy on there. I don't know. But anyway.
They get a veteran, too. They could end up with, I don't know what their cap situation is, but they could.
I don't know either. But, Baker Mayfield is still out there. He's going to land someplace.
Jimmy G, there's options.
Jimmy G, exactly. All right. Let's see. Frankie G says, I'm so confused. Why are we trading Bradbury? All right, Frankie, obviously they haven't traded Bradbury yet, but the crux of the problem is his salary cap number. He's at I think it's 21.7 million. They cannot carry that number. They are still top heavy, which means that they have, I think, 3 guys, I want to say, who are making 20 million or more on the cap. That is considered top heavy.
Yeah.
And the way you calculate this, Frankie, is you look at the top 5 contracts and you add that up and you determine what percentage of the cap they represent. And if it's more than 35%, the team is top heavy. And I think right now the Giants are still a tad top heavy. They've got Leonard Williams, obviously. Now they redid Adoree Jackson, but just an overall mess. I thought they would be able to clean a lot of it up. I think they will be in better condition next year, but this year, I don't know where the heck they're going to get the money. I did write an article for Giants Country saying here's a possibility where they can get it in addition to Bradbury. If you guys want to check it out, giantscountry.com. But I'll tell you what, I don't envy Shane. And that's a big reason why, folks, when I say I don't know how good of a year the Giants are going to have this year, that's driving it in a way because they just haven't been able to do what they need to do in order to make this work.
Frankie,
I mean, think about it.
I'm just going to tell you straight up, Frankie, we're not keeping Bradbury. Bradbury has not shown up to voluntary training camp for a reason. He's been mentioned in trade several times for a reason. The New York Giants are trying to get something for him. They're trying to find some kind of market for him. And the explanation is simple. It's not because he's a bad player. It's because Joe Schoen inherited a horrible cap situation, and he's got one of 2 options. Sure, he could keep James Bradbury, but let me ask you, is it worth it to further commit yourself to other players on this roster that you have nothing to do with by backloading contracts? Guys like Leonard Williams, guys like Kenny Golladay. The answer is no. It is not in the best interest of this football team to backload other contracts to retain James Bradbury for 1 year. He's going to be a free agent after this year anyway. You're not competing for a Super Bowl. It's in the best interest of the New York Giants, as sad as it may sound, to move off of James Bradbury. It just is. They can't even afford to pay their draft picks right now. It's going to save you $10.5, $11 million if you were to trade him. And even then, we're probably going to have to do 1 or 2 other small things to be able to pay the draft pick. So James Bradbury is not going to be here. And I think had they already been able to get what they wanted, he already would have been traded. But I think at some point he's going to be traded. I don't expect him to be back as a Giant.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is teams are waiting to see how the board falls. If somebody needs a cornerback and they don't get the type of cornerback that they want, then maybe a market's going to open up. But yeah, worst case scenario, they restructure him and they do the old Brandon Myers approach. For those who don't remember what they did with Brandon Myers several years ago, they signed him to a multi-year contract, but the last 3, I think it was 4 years total. The last 3 years were voidable, but they added that on so they could spread out the signing bonus. I don't think if I'm Shane, I want to carry a contract through 2025, but in my projection that I did on Giants Country, that was the best way to do it because that way I kept the numbers down.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's the only option. And Shane has already come out and said that he doesn't want to do that, and he's already done it a little bit.
And that's how they got in this mess to begin with by doing all these restructures.
So I just don't see it making a whole lot of sense. It makes sense on the field, but long term it doesn't make much sense for the football team. And I think Shane's looking at it long term.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, want to send a shout out to Big Blue for Life 57 Ortiz. I don't know if you're from my Instagram account. I put a note on my Instagram account at DaEntertainah for those of you who want to follow me on Instagram because I'm really trying to step up my Instagram game here. I'm trying to post stuff, videos, photos, behind the scenes. So as I've been mentioning, on the little banner that you see at the bottom periodically throughout this podcast, I've been trying to step that up, and I'm going to have hopefully on-site reports, pictures, video clips, all kinds of cool stuff on Instagram. There'll also be stuff on Twitter, and then I will be doing short reports here on the LockedOn Giants podcast. I'm going to be a busy little beaver. And I haven't even talked about writing yet, too. My gosh, I'm getting tired just thinking of it. I better make sure I get a nap and eat my Wheaties tomorrow or something. Oh, goodness. All right. Let's see if we have any. Oh, here we go. Here's one from Marcos Aguilar. I keep hearing Malik to Giants from fans. Marcos, I don't see it happening. I know some fans want Malik Willis. I do not see them taking a quarterback. Look, they've committed to Daniel Jones for this year. They want to see what they have in him. Fix the offensive line. Hope that, the Dable system is creative enough to get Kenny Golladay, set him free in the offense, get Kadarius Toney on track, get Saquon Barkley on track. If Jones flops again, then next year you've got a better selection, I think, of quarterbacks that I think the Giants will probably look to invest in if Daniel Jones flops this year.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I said it today. I would be more surprised if the Giants took a quarterback this year than if they did in 2019. In 2019, I kind of expected it, just not at 6. I would be more surprised this year if they took a quarterback. I don't see it happening. You signed Tyrod Taylor as well to a pretty, hefty contract for a backup, $6.5 million. You got Daniel Jones still on the roster. He doesn't really carry much trade value, so I don't see it. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback, and I think, like you said, it's about setting up the team where next year you could either get a guy that is a much more highly thought of quarterback prospect, or if you have to take a guy like Malik Willis at 2023, who's more of a high upside, but a guy that's kind of a project, at least then he comes into a better situation than he would this year if you start to, fix up this offensive line and fix the team around him. So I just don't think it's the right year to take a quarterback, especially being that there's no Trevor Lawrence in this draft. There's no, Justin Herbert in this draft. This is still a weaker quarterback draft class.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Amen to that. All right. JC Silver wants to know, what's the snack choice for the draft? I don't know. It depends on what the Giants give us. I mean, for me, I probably won't snack. I'm trying not to eat after 7 o'clock because I'm doing intermittent fasting, in an effort to shed a few pounds, get into shape for training camp. Dexter Lawrence isn't the only one who came into the off-season program a little out of shape.
Calvin Benjamin diet.
The what? The Calvin Benjamin diet?
Calvin Benjamin. Last year he said he had to lose like 15 pounds and he gained like 10.
No, not me.
No, my snack for I'll probably have pizza before the draft tomorrow. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, I'll have something.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do something with chicken, or I don't know. It depends on what my husband wants to eat. I'll probably eat before I go to the draft. Draft starts at 8, so I'll probably eat before that and just call it a day. And if I snack on anything, it'll be fruit, because I absolutely love fruit. All right, Chris, while we're waiting for more questions to come in, let's talk about the second round pick, because this to me is also, it's not getting enough, I think, discussion, but it is just as important, obviously. Well, they're all important, the picks, but the second round pick is going to be a pivotal one for the Giants. What do you think they do with that second round pick? What would you like to see them do? And what do you think realistically they might do?
All right, give me what did they do at 5 and 7, and then I'll give you my answer.
All right, 5, they take an offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say 7, they take a cornerback.
Okay. I think at 36 at that point, I'm looking at one of 3 positions. If they took the corner and they took the offensive tackle, I'm looking at potentially an interior offensive lineman, but probably not. It would take one of the top 3 interior offensive linemen to fall to 36, which I don't see happening. That being Linderbaum, that being the 2 guards, rather, that everybody are talking about, Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson. So I don't think that's going to happen. I doubt any of those guys get to 36. So if they're all off the board, then I turn to either wide receiver, which is a possibility, probably not my preference, but it's a possibility. Safety, I look at a guy like Petre. I look at a guy like Brisker out of Penn State. I think he's a nice in-the-box safety prospect. Or what's the other position I wanted? I said corner. I said edge. I look at edge at that point. I look at the kid from Penn State, Beat Day, however it's pronounced, or Benito. I think both of those guys are potential second-round day 2 prospects that the Giants can take at 36. I think any of those names are in play. I'd probably slightly lean towards the edge, but it's very hard to project because we don't know which players are going to drop where the New York Giants are picking at 36.
Yeah. Now, for me, I would say I would like to see a nose tackle, because that is still a need. Yep. They do have Justin Ellis, but he signed to the 1-year deal. Get a nose tackle in, somebody who's not just a 0 tech, but also a 1 tech. Maybe you can even move them out to a 3 tech, but just get somebody who can play that 0 and 1 tech spots. I'd like to see that. I mean, I would like to see maybe a center if Tyler Linderbaum somehow falls down to the Giants at that, which I don't think he will, by the way. I think Linderbaum's going to go in the back end of the first round, which is why I wouldn't mind seeing them trade up for, a guy like that. I don't think I would go receiver, but I might go safety with the second, in the second round.
Petre. Another name I should have mentioned. I saw Corey, I think, mentioned in the chat. I didn't think about it because he's hurt, but he's a possibility. He's a stash guy. Ojabo. Ojabo was I don't know if he'll get there. I don't know if he'll go later. I don't know where he's going to go because he's hurt, but he was a guy that a lot of people thought the Giants could take at 7 if you would have asked, 2 months ago. So I think he's an interesting candidate at 36 as well.
I don't know about Ojabo. I mean, I think, it's funny. The two mocks that we ran over on Giants Country, we actually ran the Fan Nation publishers. And then we've got one mock that was written by one of my writers, one of my scouting writers. And he had Ojabo going to Kansas City because Kansas City just seems to be more in a position, to me, Ojabo might be in the second round, Chris. I know he's going to get better, but I'm looking for guys to come in and instantly make an impact. I don't know if I want to redshirt another guy already. You're redshirting Matt Parrott, you're redshirting Sterling Shepard. I know they're different positions, but how many of these guys are you going to carry that aren't going to be able to contribute to the back end of the year? I mean,
it's fair. I mean, he's got an Achilles injury. You would have to be really high on him to do that because you're basically punting his first year. You'd have to be really high on him to do that. And you're probably right. Very early second round is probably a bit early for a player injury. I think he's going to go in the second, but probably
I think so too.
Late second.
Yeah, I definitely think so. But I don't know. Look, if he hadn't been injured, I might say yes. But the Giants, they got to hit the ground running. And I know, even though I keep saying I don't think the Giants are going to do anything necessarily this year, but still get everything solidified, get everybody to where they're playing fast by the end of the year, and you're seeing some growth week after week after week. So, all right, let's take a question here from Float Jones. Any chance you think the Giants could trade up to secure a player they really want? Neil Sauce, etc. No, Float, I don't see it happening. Again, cap situation, and then now you've got to give up assets. And this team needs all the assets that it can get. I just don't see that as a scenario. I mean, Chris, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'm completely against that idea. We were talking about. I was talking about this the other day on my channel when I was doing a midday stream. If the Giants were to say to trade up for 3 to get Sauce or whatever, you run the risk of not being able to get a tackle. At 7. Plus, you'd be giving away future draft capital. I just think the Giants are in a position where they need as many players as they could get. We have so many holes on this roster. I'm not looking to give away draft capital to move up, especially in a draft where it's not known as like the richest draft class. And we need future draft capital. We don't need to give it away, especially being that we may need a quarterback in 2023. So if anything, I'm looking to trade down. I'm not looking to trade up.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's see. This one is from Sujith LJ. I hope I said that right. Are you worried that too many teams are looking to get a quarterback next year? Sujith, I think I would worry more about that next year. I'm not concerned about it right now because you just don't know about movement. I mean, last year, if I had told you Baker Mayfield might be available via draft, would you have believed me? You probably would have said, no way. They were coming off of a playoff. So you just don't know what's going to happen and who's going to get what in free agency. Will some of the quarterbacks this year work out? So I think it's a little premature to sit here and start wringing your hands over that. I think
it's a fair concern, but yeah. like you said, I'm not thinking about it right now. I think the fact that I forgot who it was that asked that, but I think the fact that you've seen all these teams do that, get future draft capital. They are thinking that way. The Eagles got future draft capital. There was one or two other teams that got future draft capital as well. They are thinking that way, and you've seen teams kind of get stopgap quarterbacks. Washington rings a bell by getting Carson Wentz instead of electing to potentially draft a quarterback, so they're potentially opening to getting a quarterback. The Seahawks was a team that got future draft capital by trading away Wilson. So I do think there's going to be teams looking to get a quarterback, and they see the writing on the wall. They know this is a poor draft class, and they're looking ahead, ahead to the future for a stronger quarterback draft class. But you worry about that next year.
Yeah.
You worry about that next year because, like you said, you don't know how it's going to play out. What if the Giants win 3 games and we don't even got to think about potentially trading up because we're picking in the right spot? I'm not worried about it. What if Daniel Jones takes off? You got to take it 1 year at a time before I start to dive into next year's draft. Would I like the insurance if possible? Absolutely. If you could, you find a good trade in this draft to get yourself another first round pick, but it's not something I'm really worried about right now. And if the Giants need a quarterback, that means Daniel Jones is going to have a bad year more than likely. And if Daniel Jones has a bad year, we're going to win 5, 6, 7 games. If we win 5, 6, 7 games, you'll be able to find a way, in my opinion, to be able to move up and get one of those top quarterbacks if need be. You might have to give up a future first and your second round, but there'll be a way to be able to do it. I'm not worried about it until such time I see how Daniel Jones plays this year, and I see where we're picking in the 2023 draft.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right. Comment here for something we said earlier. Amazing guy. You can't pick up Lawrence's option if you decline Jones's is not a good look. Amazing guy. It doesn't matter. This
Yeah,
is a
sure, what's a good look?
business.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not personal. If it's like, that's like saying, well, if you're going to give Jones a million, a $20 million contract, you should really give it to Tyrod Taylor and Davis Webb, because it's not a good look if they don't get, or maybe not the quarterback. Maybe, it's like saying you should pay all the offensive linemen the same amount. That doesn't matter, my friend. I'm sorry. I disagree with you there.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree as well.
Yeah.
It's doesn't. He didn't draft either one of these players. I'm gonna let him make a decision on who he feels should be retained and who shouldn't be.
Okay. All right. This one is from Chino. Wants to know what's more important, wide receiver or tight end?
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I'll let you take this one first, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is I think it depends on the scheme that your offense runs. I think the scheme we run, definitely wide receiver. But if you look at a team like the 49ers, I mean, George Kittle is so vital to that team, the way that they utilize him as a tight end. You could say the same thing about Travis Kelce with the Chiefs. But you look at the way Buffalo ran their offense, it's certainly the wide receiver. The tight end isn't heavily involved in that offense. Now, you definitely need good tight ends, specifically tight ends that can block, something that Evan Ingram was not able to do here during his tenure here with the New York Giants. They're both really important. And again, in certain systems, I may argue the tight end's more important. But for the system that I think Brian Dable is going to run with the New York Giants, I would definitely say a wide receiver.
I just to add to that, Stephen Lebitz over on Giants Country put up an article. I think the title, I'm trying to remember what the headline was. It's what's the one thing the Giants can't afford to do? I think that's the title. It was an article about wide receivers. He found this report, this study about wide receivers and the success rate of receivers in the first round versus second round, third round, and so forth. Check it out. It's over on Giants Country. It's in one of the headers there. I forget the exact headline. This just goes to show you how much writing I'm doing when I can't even remember the headline I wrote earlier today. But I would say receiver is more important just based on what we know about the tight end class this year. Look, they've got Ricky Seals-Jones, who's going to be, I think, their blocker. This guy that they just picked up, Akins, I think is more of a receiver. They're going to probably draft another tight end because they're going to need somebody for the long term, because both Seals-Jones and Akins are on 1-year deals. But look, you look at what Buffalo ran, you look at what Kansas City ran, they basically lived on 11 personnel. And again, this is in the article I referenced, but off the top of my head, I think Buffalo was the fifth, used 11 personnel, the fifth most of all the NFL teams. And I want to say Kansas City was 7th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. They were top 10. So that to me says, look for a lot of 11 personnel, look for a lot of use of the receivers. Now, if the receivers don't stay healthy, obviously that all goes out the window. But I would think with this receiver class being as deep as it is, maybe you want to get both. You definitely need a tight end, but also see if you can't pick up another receiver, because look, next year you're not going to have Sterling Shepard because he's got a voidable year. I'm just trying to think. Darius Slayton's in a contract year. If he
there's rumors we're going to trade him.
If right, exactly. If they trade him, which I don't know if they will or not, because what would they actually get for him? I mean,
maybe a fifth, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe a 7th round, a conditional 7th rounder.
Not getting money.
But the point is you got 2 guys who aren't going to, probably not going to be here next year. So, receivers generally considered a position that guys can pick up quickly. But, do you want to bring them in, and do you want to maybe break them in on special teams? I don't know. I mean, but right now I would say receiver for the scheme, but tight end for the numbers would be my pick. How's that for an answer?
Good answer. I think wide receiver is looked at as the more premium position overall, but I think it's circumstantial. It depends on the type of offense you're running. But, I would say wide receiver is probably at this point, probably the 2nd or 3rd highest paid position in the sport, which I actually think it's a little too high at this point, but it's certainly one of the more important positions, probably top 4 or 5 positions in the sport. Tight ends, both positions, you can kind of get value historically in the draft. You look at a lot of the top wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, none of those guys are 1st-round picks. Tight ends, George Kittle was a 5th-round pick. So historically speaking, you get value at both positions, but I would say a high-end wide receiver is more valuable than a tight end. But if you have an elite tight end like a George Kittle, that guy's just as valuable as anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, there is no George Kittle, I don't think, in this class, but
No.
if you can get one like that, maybe next year, I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, folks, I do need to run 2 quick commercials. I'm going to run one now and then one a little later. This one's real quick. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's LockedOn Giants podcast, a live edition with DaEntertainah. But first, Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, but without the calories and sugar. Most Built Bars contain about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, and they taste great. Built Bar offers 9 amazing flavors in nut and nut-free variety, plus a rotating limited time offering of different flavors that changes up every so many weeks. So head on over to BuiltBar.com and see what their current flavor lineup looks like, and use our special promo code LOCKED15 to save 15% off your first order. That's code LOCKED15 for 15% off your first order at BuiltBar.com. All right, we are back here on the LockedOn Giants podcast. You got Trina and the Tana. Love
There
it.
you go. There you go.
Love it. One of my favorite guests. Love talking ball with this guy. We're going to have to do this after the draft, man. I'm sure there's going to be a lot. I'm sure emotions are going to be flying like crazy after
There'll be
this.
plenty to talk about.
After
Saturday, there'll be plenty to talk about.
Oh, yeah. And then we'll also have maybe some undrafted free agents to talk about, but so much coming up. Going to be a busy.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just thinking, what's the schedule for the Giants after the draft? When's the
rookie mini camp is going to be? Hold on, I'll tell you the exact dates because I have that here. I just got to look it up. 13th, 14th, and I think they have half a day on the 15th. But media access, I believe, is going to be 13 and 14.
Okay, so
I don't know what time of day it is, but.
Schedule comes out too around then too, I think mid-May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. The schedule comes out, I think, on the 12th.
Oh, 12th. Okay.
So that's going to be a busy weekend for sure.
So yeah,
what's another busy weekend, right? Keeps me out of trouble.
There you go.
All right. Let's get back to some of your questions here. JC Silva, what's the one position of need you can see Shane bypassing in this draft? I'm going to say inside linebacker.
I could see that. I mean, I could see, to be honest with you, outside of the tackle and probably corner and more than likely edge, I could see any position. I say it all the time, like, you cannot expect the New York Giants to fill all their needs in this draft or even close to it. We have 9 picks and we have so many needs on this football team. But yeah, I could see linebacker. I could see tight end, even wide receiver. I don't expect it, but even edge is at least a slight possibility. Like the Giants, I think, are just going to take the best possible players they have on their board, and whatever position they play, especially as the draft goes along, that's the position they play. So I don't expect them to fill every need in this draft. I think it's going to take 3 years for them to fill all their needs. It's going to take us some time to build this team through the draft. So yeah, linebacker is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the one, they can get by on. But, let me ask you, you mentioned edge. We still don't know exactly what they have in Ellerson Smith and how he's going to be deployed. O'Shane Ximenez is still on this roster, which, he's a guy that I thought might be a salary cap cut. Does that maybe indicate to you that they could be thinking of keeping these guys and deploying them as edge rushers and maybe bypassing an edge rusher? I mean, I don't want to see it myself.
I just pulled up the Giants depth chart. You've got Leonard Williams is on the line. You got
he's on the line, but I'm talking outside linebackers here.
Yeah, Quincy Roche.
There's no Batman amongst them, but can they get by? In other words, if you're based on what you know about Wink Martindale's defense down in Baltimore when he ran it, he put more of an emphasis, I thought, on the back end than he did on the front end. I could be wrong there.
Definitely did.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if maybe they say, okay, you know what? Maybe we can get by without a Batman pass rusher, which, again, I would like one. If Thibodeau was there, I would love him, regardless of, any issues or concerns they might have about his personality. I mean, he would be the first quirky guy to walk through that door, and he won't be the last.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in an ideal world, I want them to take an edge rusher, and I would be at least moderately surprised if they didn't, but I'm leaving it open to all possibilities because, like you said, I don't view this as the type of defense that is going to prioritize an edge rusher. I think Wink's going to be a guy that feels like he can generate pressure through his blitzing scheme, through strong coverage. I think they're going to prioritize the back end. And when you factor in that we're going to lose Bradbury, I think that's going to be their primary focus. Now, like you said, if Kayvon Thibodeau is there and they have a high grade on him, they can take him. Don't get me wrong. But anything could happen in this draft with all the needs that we have. Don't be surprised if at the end of the draft, a lot of Giants fans watching this are complaining and saying, how did you not address this position? Because there's so many needs on this team that, I remember a couple of years ago, the Giants took 4 linebackers in their last 5 picks. And people were like, what were you doing? You needed this, 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 and this. Giants are going to take the best player on their board, and they're going to try to fill in needs. But in an ideal world, yeah, I'd like to come out of this draft with an edge. I'd like to come out of this draft with a receiver. I'd like to come out of this draft with, obviously, a right tackle, with a safety, with a cornerback. But you might not, so we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what we end up with.
For sure. Definitely. All right. Let's see. Fabian says, what up, lady and Jen? Fabian, what's going on? Thank you so much for spending the night with us, part of the night with us at any rate. Let's see. Neymar Seckhorn. Will we draft Sauce Gardner and trade James Bradbury? Bradbury, I don't see staying at his current number.
Yeah.
I really don't. Will they trade him? They got to find a market for him. Shane's not going to give this guy away for a song and a dance. Will they draft Sauce Gardner? That depends if he's on the board. You're talking probably at 7. I don't know if Sauce is going to make it down to 7. And if he doesn't, do the Giants have Stingley rated a little higher? Coach Gene Clemens, who has been on this podcast before and who also writes for me over in Giants Country, did a comparison, Sauce or Stingley. He thinks Stingley is the better of the 2 options for what it's worth. So, I don't know the answer because, like I said, I don't know if the Giants are going to stay put at 7 or if they're going to trade down. I think if they are at 7 and Sauce is there and they have a choice between Sauce and an edge rusher and Stingley, I could see them going with Stingley. That doesn't mean I'd like it, but I could see it happening.
I wouldn't be shocked, but if you ask me right now if Sauce is there, are they going to take him at 7? I would say, yeah, I think he's probably the favorite. If he's there at 7, I don't know if he's going to be there. He might go 3, he might go 4. But if you ask me right now, I am, and maybe my opinion will change leading up into the draft, but right now today, I am going to say I am locked in to thinking tackle at 5, cornerback at 7. I think I'm committed to that belief. I think they're going to go with a tackle, and they're going to take either Stingley or Sauce at 7. I think they'll probably have Sauce above him, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of where my head's at right now. I think they're going to go with tackle in a corner, but of course players could drop, crazy things could happen. But that's my thought process going in. I think they're going to feel the need to prioritize that secondary, especially with Bradbury leaving.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Tommy 41 Tommy. I think that's how you say that. Do we really think taking both O-line and O-line or O-line, D-line, vice versa, how long will it take to get to compete and make a run now if we get Willis, the explosive ass? Okay. The Giants aren't drafting Malik Willis. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. I don't see that happening. Not in the first round. They've committed to Daniel Jones. They've signed Tyrod Taylor. They've got Davis Webb to kind of serve as that player coach. I just don't see Malik Willis getting drafted by this team. How long will it take for the Giants to compete? Here's the thing. Look, they've got a lot of holes. They've got to fill these holes. They've got a new system. They've got a new coaching staff. Everybody's kind of get used to each other. It's going to take some time for everything to gel. Yeah. I want to see, ideally, linear progress once the season starts. They may start off slow, but I want to see them get better each and every week. And if I see them going like this, then I'm like, okay, we've got a problem here, and I'm assuming everybody stays healthy. But I think you want to start and build the foundation, because the foundation last year was kind of wrecked by the injuries and also by, I think, the scheme that was holding them back on offense.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that you said, and it's hard for me to come up with an answer of when I know they're going to compete. Like you, it's really beating a dead horse at this point. Even if you think you should take Willis, I don't think we're taking a quarterback. So, but as far as when is this team going to compete, for me, it comes down to Daniel Jones in terms of the ETA. If Daniel Jones takes a big step up this year, I'll expect to compete in 2023. If Daniel Jones does not, I'll say 2024 is the earliest, because then you're going to have a rookie quarterback more than likely. So a lot of that comes down to the progression of Jones and obviously the improvements on the rest of this roster. So you're probably looking at 2024 unless Jones takes a big leap this year.
Yeah. All right. Now somebody said to look at Shoddy's tweet. I've got to look that up to see what he had to say. But let me get to another question here. Tara Jackson, how do you guys feel about Garrett Wilson to the Giants at 7?
I saw a lot of people in the chat asking that. I don't know if there's been
Yeah.
a recent rumor that the Giants are interested in potentially doing that. Would I scream if they did it? I'm not going to scream. Is it my preference? No, I don't want them to take a wide receiver at 7. Now, if they trade it down to the mid first, 12, I'm more open to doing that. But I don't think I want to take a wide receiver at 7. I think at 7, I want to take either the cornerback or the edge after we take our tackle. That's my mindset. I think you could get good wide receivers at 36 if you really want to take a wide receiver. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft class. You could get a guy potentially like Jahan Dotson, who I have going to the Chiefs in the back end of the first, but he could easily there's a number of guys that you could take in that second round area. So for me, I think I'm leaning more on the defensive side with that other pick after we take the tackle.
Okay, now somebody again said to look at Shoddy's tweet. That would be Michael Shoddy, who I think is with 33rd Team. I think this is the tweet that is being referenced. Source close to the situation in Jacksonville tells me that Trayvon Walker will be the pick tomorrow night. Ooh.
Yeah. Stand up, New York Giant fans.
Oh, man.
That's good.
Oh, if that happens, boy, you might hear.
It was starting to lean that was going to be the case, but it's good that we're starting to get clarification that may very well be the pick, and I'm happy. I think it's a bit of a reach. I would not mind Walker at 5 or 7, but I'm happy he's going top 4 if it means somebody else gets kicked back down. So I think Giant fans will be happy about that news.
Yeah. That, and plus that means Hutchinson. You figure one of Hutchinson and Thibodeau might fall, but again at 5, I'm going offensive tackle. I'm not messing around. Now, if all 3 offensive tackles are still on the board at 5, and I have equal grades. Now, I think I've explained this before on the pod, but if I haven't, let me just quick explain it. The Giants always say they go with best available. We know that is a myth. So the way that works is the Giants might have a cluster of players that have similar grades that are only separated by like a decimal point. So let's say the 3 offensive tackles are on the board, and one it's graded 97.8, one is graded 97.5, and one is graded 97.1. All right. At that point, it becomes,
I'd go deep at that point.
I'm sorry. I said offensive tackles. 3 players that, an offensive tackle with edge and say a safety. All right. Okay. That's when need factors in, because the grades are so close together. That's when you have need. So the real question is how many cluster groups did they have on their board? And that's where you can kind of figure out. It's amazing. I'll have to see if Shane would answer that question. I don't think he would, but it might be worth asking at the end of the draft. How many situations did you have where you had a cluster of players with similar grades? And then we can try and maybe figure things out from there. So I'll have to try to remember to slip that question in.
Yeah, I heard a report or something. I think it was on Twitter today that they said that the Giants have a grouping of about 7 or even up to upwards of about 9 or 10 players that they really like right now. And they're not necessarily dying to trade down. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if all 3 tackles get past 4, which is possible, especially if a guy like Trayvon Walker goes first, the Lions aren't going tackle. If Houston does not go tackle, which I have them penciled to do, but they could easily go edge rusher. They could go with a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau. They could go Sauce Gardner. And if the Jets don't go tackle, if none of the tackles go in the top 4, that's when I think you wait till pick 7. Unless you value one of the tackles so much higher than the other 2, then you just take your tackle at 5. But if they're all, like you said, kind of clustered together, I would go defense actually first at 5 and then get my tackle at 7.
Okay. Let's see. NY Giants 26. Why is Daniel Jeremiah all of a sudden mocking Garrett Wilson to the Giants? Does he know something we don't?
So that must have been what it was. That's why everybody's asking about it.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's a smoke screen. Could be a smoke screen. I mean, I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I shouldn't be.
He's got Let me see his first four. He's got Trayvon Walker. He's got, oh, sorry, let me turn. I don't know why this is doing. He's got Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Icky, Sauce, Evan Neal, Cross, and Garrett Wilson. He's got Garrett Wilson of the New York Giants.
I don't know, man. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, all right. I'm trying to make sense. I don't love it, but I'm trying to make sense of it. The way that I could see why Joe Schoen, if he were to go that route, would do that would be like, listen, I'm trying to evaluate my quarterback, and I'm trying to build this team up potentially for the quarterback I'm going to draft next year. Let me get his tackle. Let me make sure I got him a primary weapon at the wide receiver spot. So from that standpoint, I'm trying to make sense of it. And they would have to feel, for them to justify taking Garrett Wilson for me with the other needs that are on this roster and the fact that you spent $18 million a year last year on Golladay, you spent a first-round pick on Tony last year, for you to justify taking a wide receiver 7th overall in this year's draft, he better be Jamar Chase. He better be a high-end number 1 wide receiver if you're spending that high of a draft pick in this year's draft class and you're bypassing some of the other needs on this football team. So you better think really highly about him if you're taking him that early.
Could be, they saw what happened in Cincinnati. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what they're thinking, but, and then, just to add to that, Frankie G says Adam Schefter on his podcast said that the Giants like Wilson. I mean, the Giants like a lot of guys, but do they like them enough to say, hey, we're going to draft them? I just don't know. I really don't. I mean, to me, receivers a need, but is it, more of a need than safety? Is it more of a need than tight end? Is it more of a need than edge or cornerback? I don't think I can say that. I mean, but then again, that's not, that's why I don't get paid that kind of money.
They might not draft for need. I won't be beyond shocked if they do something like that. I don't expect it. I expect a corner before it. I expect an edge before it. If they trade down, I think Garrett Wilson could be in play. If Garrett Wilson was there, if they trade down, even if they traded down to 9, it's more plausible. But I don't think they would do it at 7. But I've been surprised before. I mean, I didn't think they would take Eli Apple at 10 either, and they did. So I've been surprised.
Panic pick.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a panic pick. The Giants, they absolutely wanted Conklin. Conklin, somebody I think traded up to take him, and then Jerry Reese was just like, "Oh crap, what are we gonna do?"
Yeah, I think wasn't that the draft. Floyd was also available in that draft too.
Yeah.
So they two guys they wanted, and was like, "Oh crap, we got to do something." Yeah, I remember that very well. Panic pick. But all right, let's see. Frankie G says, "Do you think Slayton will be traded?" Again, what do you think he's worth? I mean, this is a guy who's been banged up, hasn't been able to really build on his rookie season. I mean, at this point, if you get a conditional 7th for him, is it worth it? I mean, maybe because you're getting something for him, but I don't know, man. I don't think I wouldn't do it. I mean,
based off the amount of money, he doesn't make a whole lot of money. I mean, he only
I think he does. I think isn't he? I think he's a 2.5 million. Which counts, for a team.
It counts, but based on some of Christian Kirk's getting $22 million a year. Mm-hmm. So for a team that may view him as a wide receiver 3, they may all right, he's not making a whole lot of money. He's still young. He's got speed. He's got height. Maybe you could get a 5th round pick for him. I definitely don't think you would get more than that. I'd probably put his market around the 5 to 6 round range. And at that point, with all the way I look at it is, if you can't get at least a 5th round pick for him, why not just keep him on the roster? With all the wide receivers on this team that are injury prone. I mean, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard. We need depth at that position. So unless you plan on drafting a couple wide receivers in this year's draft, which I suppose is possible, I would just keep him rather than get like a 5th or 6th round pick for the guy. Because the way I look at it is this: you could actually potentially, let's say under the hypothetical scenario, Golladay gets hurt week 4 and Darius Slayton is pressed into a more expanded role. If he has 900 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns, similar to his rookie year, he may get a pretty big contract out in free agency with some of the contracts you see these wide receivers are getting, and you may get a decent comp pick for him. So if you're not getting at least a 5th round pick with all the injury players we have at that position, just keep him on the roster. And because he's at least a solid wide receiver 4. So I don't really see the need to do it if you're only going to get like a 6th or 7th round pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that's a good point. They're not going to have Shepard for probably till midpoint of the year, I would think, because remember he's coming off that what was it, an Achilles? So,
Yeah, I think they said he was going to be potentially training with the team before the year starts. But like you said, I'm not expecting him to start the year,
Yeah.
game one.
He's going to probably start on PUP, I would think, would be
Yeah.
my guess. So, all right, let's see. Jake's dad, what is a typical day one of the draft like for you, Patty? Calls, videos, print, etc. Oh, man, I'm going to get tired just talking about it. Well, this year we're back in the facility. So basically we sit in our little press room and, just watch the draft on the video monitor. And then when the pick comes in, you do a quick hit for the website, Giants Country. Then a lot of times if there's no pick right after that, which this year there might be, you get hustled into the auditorium for the pressers. Then you get the draft pick on the conference call, so you got to do that. Then you got to transcribe all that stuff. And then for me also now, I've got to come back and I've got to do a quick hit for LockedOn Giants. I probably have to jump on a radio spot here and there. So it's a busy night. It really is. And, I don't usually take naps during the day if I can help it. I think tomorrow I'm going to probably take a nice long nap at some point. So if you don't hear from me on Twitter or something breaks and I don't jump on it, you'll know I'm catching a few Z's because it is a long night. And, we are there for the entire duration of the draft. So it's not like, okay, if the Giants make a pick at 5 and 7, okay, you're done. You can go home. No, you have to stay just in case they trade back into the first round. So, it's a long day, but look, I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. I've been doing it now for over 30 years. And I'm on Twitter. I'll be on Instagram, like I said. So if you guys want to reach out, keep me company, tweet at me, whatever. I welcome all tweets and whatnot. And we'll just try to make the best of it as we wait and find out and see if what we want comes to fruition.
I was just thinking about this because I see everybody in the chat talking about Garrett Wilson. Daniel Jeremiah normally has good intel. Why would he be releasing this over and over and over again? They'll be taking Garrett Wilson. And maybe they'll take Garrett Wilson. But let me give you a theory. Let me ask you a question. What team in this draft do you have penciled in to be taking a wide receiver? Like, you're pretty sure. They got 2 picks in the top 10. Which team do you think is probably going to take a wide receiver? They look to trade for Tyreek Hill. I'm thinking of the New York Jets, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let me just give you my theory. If you're the Giants, maybe you want to start to leak some information that you could potentially be interested in Garrett Wilson, hoping that the New York Jets may say, oh my God, I might not be able to get this guy at 10. Let's take him at 4. And maybe a player drops you that way. Or maybe the Jets look to trade up to 6 to 7 to make sure they get the wide receiver, or a team that could potentially want a wide receiver. So don't read too much into any of this. And I'm not saying they won't take him. Maybe they will, but it could be smokescreens to try to, confuse some of the other teams throughout the draft to try to improve the New York Giants' value, whether it be a player to drop to them, whether it be a team that looks to trade up to jump them or to trade with them. So don't read too much into any of this.
Bingo. Good theory. It could be a smokescreen, like you said, So Deebo Samuel, once we find out where he ends up going, if he's going anywhere indeed, that's going to be another big domino that falls into place. See, it's not just the quarterbacks, folks. It's also the receivers and stuff. So, that's a real good theory, Chris. I'm glad you brought that one up for sure.
They might take him, but they also might be playing games to try to manipulate the teams around them to have players fall in their lap. Because I'm going to tell you what, if they don't want to take a wide receiver, it would be the greatest news in the world if the Jets took him at 4.
Yeah. And this way, like you said, it pushes somebody down the board to the Giants. Well, the Giants are going tackle at 5. I mean, if they don't go tackle at 5, then, I'm going to throw out my crystal ball because it's obviously a fluke. But all right, let's see. We got something from Wolf Zay. Considering the need for a safety, Kyle Hamilton at 7. Ooh.
I don't love it.
Nah, I'm not buying it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not
saying, again, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
He's thought to be one of the better prospects in this year's draft class, but kind of like we were saying earlier, I think there's a lot of really good safety prospects you can get in the second round. Petre, Brisker, even the guy Seen from Georgia. There's a lot of good safety prospects you could potentially get at pick 36, and it's not in terms of position. Joe Shane has come out and talked about positional value, right? And he said that he's going to take that into account. Safety is, in terms of positional value, probably the least valuable position on a defense. When you look at the contracts these guys get outside of maybe interior defensive line. So I don't foresee the Giants taking him 7th overall. I could be wrong. I guess it depends on how their draft board plays out, but I actually have him dropping to 11 right now. To Washington. That's the way I see it right now. But who knows? I also heard rumors they're interested in wide receiver, so we'll see. But I don't think the Giants will take Hamilton.
Yeah, I would be surprised, and he's a good player. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if he ended up with the Giants. I just don't think I would go 7 in that spot. Just my take. I mean,
He's a good player.
He's a wonderful player. I mean, I think
Michael's
anybody who
saying
gets him is going to be lucky.
He's definitely a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, folks, got to run one more commercial. Then after that, it's all Traina and Taina. So bear with me. One more commercial, and then we'll be right back at you. So hang on. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's LockedOn Giants podcast. But first, this Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. LockedOn Sports listeners can get $50 off on purchases of $500. This podcast exclusive is good only through Mother's Day. So use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON at Blue Nile. Blue Nile offers a diverse selection of rings, bracelets, earrings, and necklaces, so you're sure to find something to celebrate that special event and that special situation for that special someone in your life. Every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in a discreet packaging so that it doesn't give away the contents inside. So shop stress-free for mom or that special someone and find your forever piece today. Go to BlueNile.com and remember that promo code is locked on to save $50 off your order of $500 or more. All right. Thank you so much, folks, for your patience. You've got Traina and DaEntertainah here on a live edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast. We're talking Giants draft. This time tomorrow night, we'll at least know, hopefully, about one of the picks, I think, right? About now is,
Probably
wouldn't
about
you say,
now.
Chris, about 24 hours from now, we'll at least know who the 5th round pick is?
Yeah, I mean, I think usually probably 8:15 will probably be your first pick. So, yeah, right around now will be when I'm screaming and cursing at the top of my lungs and breaking my television. Probably right about now is when I'll have to go to Best Buy to get a new TV.
Oh, but I still say we got to put that video of you from Jones in the Smithsonian. That was classic. Oh my goodness! No, seriously. I mean, it's look. We're all gonna have, no matter what the Giants do. I think you're gonna have people who are gonna be unhappy, and to me, it's just. Whatever happens, happens. I mean, right now, this new regime hasn't given me any reason not to trust what they're doing. Whereas last year, I started to have my doubts, especially after seeing how the salary cap was going and the strategy. So we'll see, guys. I mean, maybe it'll all work out. Maybe it'll be happy. The one thing that drives me crazy, though, is when people go and assign grades to draft classes. And I say that knowing that I'm going to have to do it as well. But it's like, how do you grade a draft class when they haven't even taken the field? And especially now, you don't even know how they're going to fit because we don't know what the coaches are looking to run.
Yeah, listen, I'm a content creator and I'm a fan. So I've been guilty of it too. Like after a draft, I'll be excited. I'll grade the draft. I'll say it's an A draft because we're fans and you like the players that they drafted. But I view the draft class much like a presidency. Like, they say you can't really judge a president until he's out of office for like 8 years. It's the same thing with a draft class. Like you can't judge the draft class until 3-4 years down the road when you see these guys progress as players. So that's the way I look at it. We're all going to be hyped. We're going to convince ourselves, no matter what, as a fan base, for the most part, we had a good draft. That's the way it works. We're going to fall in love with these players and hopefully it works out. But I agree. You can't really truly grade a draft class until at least 3 or 4 years down the road. But I will say the 2020 draft class looks pretty good right now with Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, and hopefully this is a class that starts to stick because already the 2018 class is down to just one player, and that's Saquon. Yeah. So it's the same vicious cycle continuing, and I hope eventually that stops because if it doesn't, boy, are we in trouble. So, all right, let's see. We got a question here from AJ Marshall. Giants do need a safety. Which prospects would be good options in day 2 or day 3? Lewis Sign comes to mind for me. I wonder if he makes it down though to day 2.
Yeah, you also got the guy from Michigan. He's kind of a hybrid cornerback, so safety, Daxton Hill. But
Daxton Hill.
I think he's more of a day 1 pick, like you said, kind of back end first round. And then you got some of the guys I've said earlier. Petre's a guy that a lot of people feel would fit our scheme really well, along with Brisker, who I really like out of Penn State. So there's a lot of potential options for the Giants at the safety spot in the second round. I think it's very possible we go safety in the second round.
Yeah. Now, speaking of safety, Mark Thompson asks, is safety or corner more critical for the Giants?
I think it's corner. They're both critical. Don't get me wrong.
They're both critical, but I safety for numbers, but corner, I think, for what Wink wants to do. I mean, and again, safety's important, but
like they're going to use the safety in a lot of different ways. They're going to, they're going to blitz them. They're going to want versatile players. That's why Petre, I think, is a really good fit because people feel like he can play all over. But I think when you blitz as often as Wink Martindale does, I mean, you go back, you look at Baltimore. He led the NFL in blitz frequency 3 straight years. He was the defensive coordinator 4 years there. His first 3 years, he led the NFL in blitz frequency. Last year, I think he was 4th, and it was only because they were missing 3/4 of their secondary. When you want to be as aggressive as Wink is going to be with the New York Giants, you have got to be able to cover man press. You got to be able to guard one-on-one. You have to be able to guard your wide receiver on an island. So I think that strong number 1 corner is so imperative for this defense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. All right, let's see. Jake's dad, do the Giants pick Thibs at 5 or 7 if he happens to fall? I would love Thibodeau on the team. I'm not convinced that they're going to pick him, though. I just can't put my finger on it. I just don't think they're going to. I think they would go corner faster than edge in the first round. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm leaning corner as well. Like I said earlier, right now, if you ask me, I would say Sauce or Stingley, one of the top 2 corners, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take Tibbs. But like you, I think we're going to tackle at 5. Unless they have an unbelievable grade on Tibbs, which they certainly could. But I think we're going to tackle at 5.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We have something from Neymar Seacorn. Do you think we draft Jeremy Ruckert? I think that's a tight end.
Yeah, Ohio State.
What is he? I think he's 3rd round was where he's projected?
Yeah, I would say more 4th. I would say probably 4th. Yeah, more 4th.
I don't know. A guy that I seem to keep going back to is Ferguson, Jake Ferguson, because look, the tight end position, and I could be wrong here, but just based on the fact the Giants didn't retain a fullback, and I think I remember somebody saying, and I can't remember if it was a coach that told me or who it was, that the Giants want their tight end, whoever they potentially draft, to be more of an H-back type. So that's why the name Ferguson keeps popping up into my head.
Kind of like that. What's his name? The guy we brought in from the Vikings a couple of years, not Rudolph, before that. Rhett Ellison, right?
Yeah.
That type of tight end, right? He was a guy that he played a lot of H-back, fullback, whatever you want to call it, and he was capable. That's the type of tight end I think they want to bring in as well. So Ruckert is a pretty good blocker, though. He didn't have a ton of yardage, though. He only had, I think, 250 yards last year because they had some great wide receivers. But he's actually an underrated route runner. I was watching a lot of highlights on him. I like Ruckert, maybe in the 5th. But I think the Giants have so many options at the tight end spot. It's a very deep tight end class, where I think they could go 4, 5, 6 different guys. And that's why I think you wait until at least the 4th round to take one, because I think you're going to have options there.
Yeah. All right. Rosario says, great commercial. Rosario, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I have a cheat sheet. I have a script. You can probably tell it looks like I'm reading off of a script. And, here's the funny thing. Even though I'm reading off of a script, it still takes me multiple takes to get the commercial right. Oh, goodness. But, it's all good. We appreciate our sponsors, because without our sponsors, obviously, there's no Locked On. And without you guys, there's no Locked On. So, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for our sponsors. I'm grateful for you guys and gals for listening. So if I haven't said that lately, I'm saying it again, and I'll probably say it again and again, because it bears repeating. All right. Let's see.
Mark Hernandez. I'm just looking at the chat. He's asking a question to us that I ask in my sleep every night before I go to bed. In capital letters, do we finally fix the O-line this year? From your lips to God's ears, Mark. I mean, I don't know. There's no way I can know that. I I think the offensive line is going to get a lot better as long as we take a tackle at 5th overall or 7th overall. Because if you get 2 strong tackles, it's going to make the interior better. All of a sudden, you think back to last year, Pat, during the first 4 games of the year when we saw that Andrew Thomas was playing really well. The Saints game specifically, one thing you constantly saw time and time again, everybody was helping each other out except for Andrew Thomas. He was on an island by himself. If you get another tackle comparable to Andrew Thomas, suddenly you could put those guys in single coverage or whatever you want to call it. Well, they don't need help from the other blockers, and the other 3 guys could help each other out. So if you get 2 strong tackles, it's going to improve this offensive line tremendously. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. You think back to Andrew Thomas. It took him some time. So when they take one of these rookie tackles, do I expect him to step in and play at a Pro Bowl level right away? No. Not to mention, you're going to probably still need another piece here or there over the next couple of years. It takes time to build an offensive line, but I certainly think this offensive line is going to be much improved. Glowinski's a solid guard as well. So is it going to be a finished product? No. Should it be better? Yeah, but it can't be much worse.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be any worse, like you said. I mean, injuries were a big problem last year, but no disrespect to Rob Sale, but I don't think he was the right guy for that to coach up that talent.
I was a little shocked, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this. I was a little shocked at the way that Rob Sale talked about the players on his way out. He basically called Matt Parrott like a baby. I was like,
yeah,
wow. I was like, I guess it's refreshing as a fan sometimes to hear your coaches be brutally honest. But if I was a player of that team, I wouldn't look fondly at a coach like that.
No, I mean, I was surprised too, but I think at that point, Sale probably figured, hey, I'm not going to be back here next year. So, he figured, what the heck? Yeah. And it's funny because what he said kind of aligned with David Turner, who I had on, after every game last season. He used to call Matt Parrott a cream puff. Now, I don't advocate calling people names like that, but he was basically saying the same thing, that Parrott was kind of on the soft side. I mean, look, Parrott had injury issues. He came in, people forget, he came in, he had the back strain, and then I think that affected him. And then, when he can't beat out Nate Solder, that was a problem. But, just to my point, though, about coaching, look at the guys on the offensive line. And I think I wrote about this, I forget where, but, years ago, they had a guy by the name of Matt McCants, who they drafted, I think, in the 7th round. Didn't stick here, but he went on and he had a career with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Eric Flowers developed. I mean, there's been some guys, what was the center's name? Weston Richburg, Justin Pugh. Yeah. They went on to have successful careers. So you wonder about the coaching. How much does that play in the whole equation here, that these guys aren't getting developed properly? So
yeah, I think it's continuity as well. I mean, we've constantly had turnover, not just with the offensive ine coach, but with the players themselves on the line. Yeah. And I think that's a positional group more so than any other on a football team, where you need to, familiarity, playing with one another. We saw that great offensive line grow, that, the offensive line in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, they grew. It took them 3-4 years together. You need a pairing. You need to grow up together. And the Giants really haven't had that. It's been constant turnover on the line.
Exactly. All right. Stu DeMaglio, I want to see Chris's rant if the Giants take Malik.
I'm not going to flip. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to flip. Kenny Pickett, I will flip. Kenny Pickett, I will break my TV set, because I cannot come up with a single conceivable reason why they would take Kenny Pickett. Malik Willis, I will not be excited. I will not. Yeah, I'm not gonna flip, because at least with Malik Willis, I could say to myself, all right, well, at least the Giants see a guy with high-end physical traits, and maybe they feel they could duplicate what they did with Josh Allen, even though that's really shooting for the stars. With a guy like Kenny Pickett, I view a guy that's 24 years old. He's got a limited ceiling. He kind of came out of nowhere last year. To me, that is a horrible draft pick. I'm not in love with any quarterback in this class, but if you're going to swing for a quarterback, at least swing for the fences. If they take Pickett, you will see a rant for the ages, but I don't expect that to happen.
If they take Pickett, I'm going to make sure I'm tuned in on your channel. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I love you, Chris. That's why I bust your chops on this stuff. I mean, that was classic. So, all right. JC Silver, I can see Shane bypassing a running back in this draft. I don't think I can. Can you?
I can, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like if you would have said that to me 2 months ago, I would have said, yeah, I definitely could at least see it. the fact that they had 30 top 30 visits and 5 of them were running backs. Like they dedicated nearly 20% of their visits with potential draft picks this offseason to the running back position. You don't do that unless you have significant interest in potentially drafting one, at least in my opinion. Otherwise, you would have tried to bring in other guys in at other positions. So I do think we're going to draft a running back at some point. Would I be shocked if they didn't? I guess not, but I certainly expect it. And I think it's going to be earlier than some people may think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Pick 81, like that second, third round pick, I could see it.
Well, and here's the other thing you got to remember. What is the one thing that a lot of running backs coming out of college usually struggle with when they first get here into
Pass
the NFL?
blocking.
That is.
Pass
What is
blocking.
it?
Pass
Yeah.
blocking. Yeah.
So you bring a guy in. You don't have to play him right away. Maybe he lands on the practice squad. I don't know. Or maybe you develop him. Remember they also have Sandro Platzgummer, the Austrian from
by the way,
international.
What that is a guy I'm rooting for. I remember last year during the preseason game, you had that 50-yard run, and just to see the excitement on his face and the excitement from the team. I don't know if he'll make the team or not, but that'd be a cool story if he did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But my point is, you bring them in, you let them develop in that area. And then once they show that they could pass protect, then they generally get on the field. So I would not have a problem because remember, Barkley's in the final year of his deal. Matt Breida, I believe, is only signed to 1 year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
If it's
2 years.
I think it's 1, but if it's 2, I'm sure they could get out after 1.
Okay, so you're probably going to have to replenish the position. So why not bring a kid in now and get him ready? So that's why I would be inclined to, say don't skimp on running back. But you can pick them up, obviously, as undrafted free agents, I suppose. But, I could see them taking something late day 3 maybe. So
I think they're going to take one late 3rd round, early 4th round. That's right.
Well, you're going based off of history in Buffalo, I think. So
yeah, and
maybe
just over some of the running backs they brought in. I mean, James Cook is kind of like a projected 3rd round pick, but I hope not. I'm not in love with taking a running back that early, but I'm preparing myself for it so I don't scream.
We don't want another meltdown for sure. All right. Marcos Aguilar, what are we missing on defense to become elite? A Batman edge.
I think it's more than just that, but
I think it's more than that. Cornerback, you need 2 solid man-to-man press coverage guys. Probably another safety. I would like to upgrade inside linebacker. If I could find a Luke Kuechly type of inside linebacker,
I think a coverage linebacker would go along.
Yeah, like a Luke Kuechly type who could do everything.
Yeah,
they just don't make them anymore.
They don't. But yeah, like you said, we're gonna need a safety. Maybe specifically, an in the box guy that could do, he could rush the passer, he could do multiple things, but we need a versatile safety. We definitely need a lockdown corner, and we need those 3 positions: lockdown corner, safety, edge, and the cherry on top would be a coverage linebacker. But I think we're at least a few pieces away from having a potential elite defense. Now we'll see. Maybe Wink Martindale improves a lot of the players on this team, but we'll see. I'm interested, but we definitely need a lot of pieces, especially if you're going to lose James Bradbury.
Yeah, and we'll see, because that's still up in the air. By the way, folks, I see a lot of you asking about Jeremiah's mock with I think it was Wilson mock to the Giants in the 1st round. We touched on that a little earlier. We think maybe that could be a smokescreen to maybe get the Jets to, do something, but we'll see. I mean,
it could be. I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but
no, I think that makes sense. It definitely makes sense, but anything can happen. I mean, we'll have our answers by this time tomorrow night for sure, but certainly an interesting development and one that I'll probably write about tomorrow on Giants Country once I'm awake. So, all right. Kayla says, I love you, Patricia. I love you too, Kayla. So thank you for checking in, spending some of your evening with us here. Let's see. Who else? Do we have any other question? Let's see. I'm just going through here. Okay, here we go. What about Drake Jackson or Cam Thomas at edge in round 2 or 3? What do you think of those prospects, Chris?
I like Drake Jackson. I pick 36 might be a little high for him. I don't know too much about Cam Thomas. I know a decent amount about Drake Jackson. He's a high upside prospect off the edge. I think he went to USC. So he's a guy I'm interested in. 36 might be a little bit high for him. But if you really like a guy, you take him. So He's interesting, and I do think he's actually fit our scheme relatively well. Bonito as well is another guy that I think would fit our scheme well off the edge that could go in that day 2, 36th overall area.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, if they are going to go edge, if they don't go in the first round, I wouldn't go any further than third round to address it. And at that point, are you going to get a Batman? You might not, but we'll see what they decide to do there. Excuse me. All right, James Sierra. Chances that the Panthers trade out of, if they take a tackle, the rest of the tackles are available to take at 7. I'm not sure I totally understand the question. Chances that the Panthers trade out of 6.
Yeah, I think that's what he means.
Yeah, I'm going to refer you, James, to Julian Council, who runs Locked On Panthers. He might be better able to answer that question. I can't honestly say what the Panthers might do. I mean, maybe they go quarterback there. Remember, they got Ben McAdoo now sitting there as their offensive coordinator, and Ben knows his quarterbacks, right? I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
That's something certainly to keep an eye on. And if they've got an eye on a quarterback, I don't think they would trade out. But again, I would refer you to Julian Council's Locked On Panthers podcast. He could probably answer that question a lot better than I can.
I will say, if they stay at 6, I think they'll go tackle or quarterback. I don't see them doing much else.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We got one from Papa Guzzo. Papa Guzzo, Rosario, my man. Thank you for... your dad has become one of my biggest fans. I think that's
tell me
so
all the
sweet.
Time. You love him. You love him.
I love your dad. And I've never met him.
Yeah.
He's so awesome. All right. Rosario wants to know, is Adoree Jackson a good shutdown corner?
I'll say this. I think Adoree Jackson was underappreciated by a lot of Giants fans last year. I actually thought he had a good year. I actually thought he was better than Bradbury. And he played really well in the Kansas City Chiefs game, where I think he was locked up on Tyreek Hill. They put Bradbury and Kelsey on that game. He did a great job as well. But yeah, I don't know I don't think he's a number 1. And if he is, he's kind of like a 1A. I don't view him as like a lockdown corner, but I think he's a good to very good corner. I think he's a good player and actually was a decent signing, was probably the only decent signing the Giants made last year. I think he at least came close to living up to the contract.
Yeah, he started off a little rough, but you know what? I had him on the pod. Was it last month? I think I had him. No, wait. Yeah, it was last month. And we talked about the slow start and everything. Real good guy. If you searched my archives, you'll find that episode. He was very forthcoming, answered all the questions. But yeah, he came on and finished strongly, I thought, once he got healthy there. So, all right, Stu DeMeglio wants to know, didn't you pick Jermaine Johnson today at 7? I don't recall doing that, Stu. I know I've done a lot of mocks, and I posted mocks. Are you maybe thinking of something you saw the Fan Nation Network draft? I'm not sure where you might have saw that, but I don't recall picking Jermaine Johnson. I think I've been pretty consistent with what I picked.
The rumors have been crazy. I saw a rumor about Jermaine Johnson going 4 to the Jets yesterday. That was building up. The rumors have been crazy. He's been a guy that's been all over the map.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, he's been all over the map. I don't know where he's going.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean,
he's one of those guys where maybe he goes top 4 or maybe he goes like 15.
Yeah.
Kind of like Clayton Farrell, and he ended up going 4. But he's kind of one of those guys where I can't quite distinguish where I think he's going to go.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, good player, though. I mean, whoever gets him is going to be darn lucky, I think, to get him.
Yeah.
All right. Wolf say, what about the rumor that Jacksonville owner wants Hutchinson and the coach wants Ekwonu? Okay, I haven't heard that, Wolf. Again, for Jacksonville, check out my main man, Tony Wiggins. He is the Locked On Jacksonville host. He'll be able to answer. Tell him that Patricia sent you over. He hears my name. He'll tell you whatever you want to know. That's my man. One of my men, I should say. So good dude. So sorry, Wolf. I don't know. I haven't heard that rumor. And, I'm Giants beat writer. I try to keep my pulse, my finger on the pulse of what's going on with the Giants. Do I pay attention to what's going on around the league this time of year? Yes, but not in the detail, maybe as some of the national people. So that's kind of like the difference there. So I apologize that I can't give you a straight answer on that one.
The other Jacksonville's Walker too. He didn't mention.
Yeah, I mean, they just signed their offensive tackle, so you would think that they would go defense there, but I really don't know what they're going to do.
They extended him today.
Yeah, exactly.
So it leads me, and that's good news for the Giants, for
Yeah.
us. If we want to go tackle, we don't want them going tackle. So that's good news.
Uh-huh. Okay, let me see. All right. So NY Giants 26, they are shopping slate, and keep that in mind. You know what? Let me clarify something about this whole thing about shopping and whatnot. What Joe Shane is doing is taking calls
Yeah.
right now, which he should do. Is he actively shopping certain players? I think the only player that maybe they've actively shopped has been
Bradbury.
Bradbury. Exactly. The report came out about Tony being on the trading block. He took calls, as far as I know. He didn't. It's not like he picked up the phone to say, I don't know, San Francisco, and said, "Hey, can I interest you in Kadarius Toney?"
Yeah.
So there's kind of a difference when you read that somebody's being shopped versus, somebody has inquired about. It's like
to listening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you called me up and said, "Hey, is your house for sale?" I might say, okay, make me an offer,
Right.
and if you make me a sweetheart of an offer, I might say, okay, I'll sell you my house. But it's not like I'm actively shopping it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I see what's happening here. I mean, based on what I understand at any rate. So
That's what it sounded like once all the information came out. It didn't sound like they were shopping Tony or anybody outside
no,
of
I don't think they're shopping Tony right now. I mean, you got to also remember this. I mean, we still don't know why Tony didn't show up. I'm sure if he ever gets in front of the media, that question will pop up. But that being said, I know there were reports about last year, and some of those reports were true, by the way. But Shane and Dable came in here and they said everybody's getting a clean slate. What you did in the past is in the past.
Yeah.
It's what you do from this point forward. So do we know for a fact that Tony didn't have something legitimate going on? Like, I don't know, maybe it could be the expected arrival of a baby. It could have been a wedding. It could have been maybe, God forbid, somebody in the family was sick or died. We don't know.
Yeah.
And without knowing that, I personally would be reluctant to really, go after the kid and say, oh, he should have been here. Now, is it bad optics? Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I'm not going to dispute that, but I'm not going to say, well, get rid of him because he's a bum and he doesn't want to be here.
What I'll say is, regardless, at this point, he's there, so I'm happy.
Yeah, he's there. Exactly.
I was not happy when he wasn't there. I don't look at the term voluntary when I see everybody else going and he's not there, a guy that's going into year 2. Like you said, if there's a legitimate reason, different story. But if there was not, I don't like that. He's there now. He only missed a couple of days of voluntary camp. He's got the playbook. He's working with the team. I'm happy. That's it. All I want as a fan is for him to be there, working with his teammates, especially in a year like this, a transition year with a new coach, new scheme, everything else. And that's the bottom line. He's there now. So hopefully, if anything, those rumors that came out, whether they were true or weren't, hopefully that lit a fire under his butt. That's the way I look at it. If he didn't have a legitimate reason not to be there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Mike Gorga asks, Ross is gone. That would be John Ross. Shep was in uniform last week. Okay. Yes, John Ross was not resigned. Shep wasn't in uniform. Remember, he's rehabbing from that Achilles. Was he at the camp? Yes, he was there. He was on the side, though. He can't practice yet. He's not cleared to practice. So kind of a difference there between being there and actually being on the field practicing.
Also, I saw there, which was encouraging, and I don't think he's going to play to start the year. Nick Gates was there in uniform.
Nick Gates, yeah, absolutely. Nick Gates walked right. Matter of fact, he stopped to say hello to me, walking with just the tiniest bit of a limp.
Yeah,
that guy is one tough hombre. If I ever have to get into a bar fight, I want him by my side.
I think that's why Giants fans love him. I mean,
he's wonderful.
He's one of the most loved players on this team because there are certain players when you watch them play, and if I'm being honest, do I think he is slightly overrated by the fan base? Like most players, maybe. But I'm going to tell you what, there are certain players when you watch them play, when you're like, that guy loves football. He's one of those players. He absolutely lives, eats, and breathes football. So I'm rooting for him to get back out there and have a great year.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Can't say enough good things about Nick Gates. Reminds me a lot of Richie Seibert.
Yeah.
Just that toughness, that blue collar, take no crap from anybody type of toughness. I just love guys like
And
that. Those are the throwbacks.
The thing that sucked was last year, and I think we've talked about this before, is I was excited when he transferred to the guard because I thought that was his better position. When they inserted Billy Price into the starting lineup at center, he got hurt like his first snap. When he moved to the guard, I was like, oh my God, had he been playing center, maybe he never would have gotten hurt. But I just hope he recovers from the injury and he's back at it because we need him. You know, he's one of those guys. He was a captain. He's a guy that is respected in that locker room, and hopefully he's back sooner than later. But I just found that interesting that I saw him on the sideline. I'm like, oh wow, Nick Gaines is there. That's pretty cool.
Yep. And by the way, I think some of the guys that were reported as not being there, we don't know if they were inside working and rehabbing. I can't remember who some of the guys were. I want to say Blake Martinez was one, but just because a guy isn't out on the field doesn't mean he's not on the property. That I learned the hard way one year. So you might want to, that's why this time of year when you hear the attendance reports, I would take those with a grain of salt. Tony obviously was the big story, but it is what it is. But anyway, Big Blue 56. Can you see the Giants selecting 2 offensive line if all 3 tackles are on the board? Okay, I get this question a lot.
Yeah, 5 and 7, right?
Yeah, I get this a lot, Chris, and I would say probably no.
Yeah.
I would say no. I mean, this is how I look at it. The Giants don't have, in my opinion, enough young depth to develop. They have the international guy that they just brought on, whose name I've got to learn how to pronounce.
The guy, OC's guy, yeah.
Yeah, OC's guy. I gotta ask OC how to pronounce that before I butcher that name too. But you get your starting right tackle, and then you get, and to me, if you keep that 7th pick, you have to get a starter. You can't get a guy who's going to necessarily sit on the bench because who are you going to sit at that point?
Well, here's what I'll say. I think Big Blue's line of thinking is he would start a guard.
Probably.
Like if you took a Quanu, he'd be a guard, and Neal would be your tackle. I think that's what his line of thinking is.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is I would not do in the first round. I would not double dip. I would maybe look second round, get a developmental center. That to me would be a bigger need than maybe getting, a tackle / guard.
Yeah.
To me, that's the bigger need. And a center you can have sit behind Feliciano and Gates if he's going to be there. And, because Gates, this is technically the last year of his contract too. Don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I'm a huge fan, and so are you, a huge fan of the offensive line and fixing this offensive line as quickly as possible. But I agree with you. I think that there's several factors. I've talked about it. You don't even know if Aquano would want to stay at guard long term. And at that point, you're investing a 7th overall pick in a guy that may not even want to play that position after he's off of his rookie contract. So he may not be happy doing that. He's coming into the league as a projected tackle. And you could get value at the interior offensive line. You could wait another year if you feel you need to take a high interior offensive lineman in next year's draft. And we have so many other needs on this roster. That's not to say I want to ignore the offensive line throughout the remainder of the draft. I don't. Ideally, I'd like to come out of this draft with 3 offensive linemen, 1 in the first, maybe 1 in the second or third, and 1 in the back end of the draft as well for depth purposes. But I don't see the Giants doing that, and it's probably not in the team's best interest. Now, if they were to trade down, maybe then you get a guard at 19. You get a guy like Kenyon Green or something like that. But at 5 and 7, I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think that makes any sense, to be honest with you. All right, Jeff Newman says, if we don't get a bona fide star player at 5 or 7, is it a failure?
Yes, in my opinion.
I think you need somebody who's going to make an impact if you're drafting that high. I really do. Now, are you talking an all-pro? Are you talking rookie of the year? Are you talking, Pro Bowl? Some of that stuff, I don't care. I just want somebody who comes in, makes an impact within the system, somebody who maybe the opposite coordinator will have to game plan to accommodate, or to scheme against. That's what I'm looking for.
A difference maker.
Yeah, a difference maker. Exactly.
But if you have 2 picks inside the top 7, you better find at least 1 difference maker. And I want 2 with those 2 picks. So, yeah, I would view it as a failure. If you don't find a guy that's at least a fringe Pro Bowler on a pretty regular basis with one of these 2 picks, if not both, that's a failure. You're picking that high in the draft. You expect, and I know we've become accustomed to not getting that over the last couple of drafts. Saquon Barkley was that before the injury. Daniel Jones has not been that. He was 6th overall. So we've been accustomed to not getting that level of production from high picks. But yeah, when you're picking that high, you better be at least a borderline Pro Bowler. So yeah, if they don't develop into that, I would definitely view it as a failure picking that high in the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right. Alejandro Iturralde says, I want Thibodeau. He is a sure thing. Alejandro, there is no such thing as a sure thing other than death and taxes, as they say. Thibodeau is a very promising player. He's a very good player. I have seen over the course, in all the years I've been covering or working, covering a team in the NFL, sometimes there are players that people say, oh, this guy's going to be a sure thing, and they turn out not to be.
I can give you examples at that position. Chase Young so far has not been a sure thing. We were playing the Chase Young Bowl at the end of the year. He has not been a sure thing so far. He may become that. Jadeveon Clowney's a bit of a letdown for as highly talked about he was. I mean, people were talking like he was going to be the next Reggie White. So, and there's several others at the defensive end position that have been major letdowns. Cedric Jones for the Giants.
Cedric Jones, yeah.
Overall. So yeah, I agree with you. There's no such thing as a sure thing, but I do like him. And if the Giants take him, people are going to be very excited because he definitely does possess upside. I was actually looking at this just because I was interested. I don't think it should really impact how we feel about these prospects because you're going back 3 years. He was the number 1 rated prospect in the country at any position going into college, Kayvon Thibodeau. That's how highly thought of he was. And when you compare him to a guy like Jermaine Johnson was 2,100 coming out of high school. So Thibodeau has always been a guy that has been looked upon as this athletic freak. Or not. I don't think he's on the level like a Myles Garrett in terms of athletic freak or maybe even a guy like, but he's on Bosa he is. But I wouldn't say he's on like a Myles Garrett level. But he's got a really high ceiling. And I think that's what people see. And he probably has the highest ceiling of any edge rusher in this year's draft class. But people question the work ethic, is the love of the game. That's kind of what's kind of dropped him down some of these draft boards. And I actually watched a video today from Chris Sims. Have you watched Chris Sims's breakdowns when he breaks down the prospects? Have you ever watched those before?
Here and there, I've watched them, yes.
I think he does a great job. And a lot of times he will go off the cuff and he'll have like hot takes. He had Thibodeau ranked 7th. I think it was, at the edge rusher position in this year's draft class. My jaw almost hit the floor. I was like, oh, my God. So I've never seen a player that has been so all over the map as Kayvon Thibodeau was. Because if you go back a year ago, he was the consensus number 1 overall pick in this draft. And now you hear some people saying that he should be a mid to late first-round pick. So he's been all over the map. I am really intrigued to see where he goes tomorrow night.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, a good player. I mean, I think he's going to make some noise, but sure thing. I just would not attach that label to him just yet. So, All right. Fabian wants to know, is Daniel Jones cleared? Fabian, as far as I know, I don't believe he is, but they are still optimistic he will be. There is no contact until August. He doesn't really need to be cleared right now. I mean, Daniel was able to go out there. He was able to throw and participate in the mini camp that they had on April 20th. So I didn't think he looked bad. He didn't look like, he was favoring his neck or anything like that. Then again, in practice, it's not contact anyway. So, you've got time on your side right now if you're Daniel Jones, and I think they are optimistic that he will be okay. But we'll see. We'll get a little better feel for it, I think, as we get closer to the end of spring football. Daniel Jones was supposed to speak to the media on April 20th. He, for whatever, I think he had a meeting or something, so he didn't come out. We didn't get a chance to see where he was at with things, and I don't think the topic came up with Brian Dable or Joe Shane for that matter, but at some point, I'm sure that that topic will definitely come up.
Everything I've heard is he's going to be ready to go.
I think he will be.
Yeah,
I think he will be.
Feeling that I get. He's going to be ready to go. So much so that they're already at least discussing the topic of potentially extending him on the 5th-year option. I don't think they would even discuss that with Mara. They said I think they were going to do that tomorrow or the day after. I don't even think that would be a discussion unless they felt very confident that he was going to play this year. So and play
Yeah,
day one. He's going to play this year.
I think so too. And you know, they set up Tyrod Taylor, as you know, the contract is set up in such a way so that if they need to, you know, they need to do something with him as the starter, they can do it. So, by the way, some of you folks, we'll go another 15 minutes or so. We'll continue to take your questions. So again, thank you to everybody who's come out. We've had a really good turnout. I think this is one of our best turnouts, Chris.
How many? I can't even see how many people we got.
We're close to about 260, which is
260. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate it. I know sometimes lately we've been doing this around lunchtime, you know, but it looks like nighttime is better for everybody. If it is, let me know, guys. So, you know, for future planning, if you know, we'll do these shows at night if that's better for everybody, as opposed to around lunchtime. Me personally, I don't care either way. I could do it, you know, lunchtime, nighttime. You know, I'm here to help to you know, to service you guys. So, all right, let's see. All right. Andob J, did you see Shane tell the Wisher kid he gets to make the pick? Yeah, I saw that. Oh my gosh. That's wonderful.
That was awesome.
That was just awesome. That young boy's expression was just beautiful. I think he's a podcaster, an up-and-coming podcaster too.
Oh, is that what he was? I didn't know
Prince
that.
Pod or something like that. I have to look up his name. The name of the
I followed
pod.
him on Twitter. I followed him on Twitter.
Did you?
Yeah.
He's a podcaster, a budding podcaster. So
I did not know that. If that's true, I'm gonna have to have him on my channel. But that's
awesome.
awesome.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
But that's awesome. Yeah, it was so cool to see. I think he was from the Make-A-Wish, and it was
yes,
cool.
Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, he's gonna get
and best wishes to the young man too. You know, I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's something with his heart.
I think they said he's recovered.
Oh, he recovered. Oh, even better.
I don't know. I don't know if it's something that they worry it could come back up, but I think they said right now he's recovered. So,
well, I hope that young man not only, you know, lives another 100 years, but you know, hey, he's a Giant fan, so you know.
Yeah, and the first thing I did when I saw it, first off, it was awesome, like you said. I followed him because I'm like in my head, I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get some intel. This guy's gonna actually make the.
Think about it. He's going to be the only person outside of the organization who's going to know who the pick is before the rest of us do.
So I'm going to message him the first chance I get. I'm going to say,
you're going to try and break the scoop, right? Now you're going to be scoop Guzzo, huh?
No, but it was awesome to see that. It was cool.
Oh, that is awesome. That really is. And, all right, let's see. Okay, we've got a trade scenario here from Timothy Frith. Should the Giants trade Darius Slayton 7th and 67 picks and 20 for Derwin? No.
Timothy comes out with a lot of. I've been on YouTube for a while. He's a subscriber of mine. He comes out with a lot of off the wall trade offers. That one's pretty off the wall. I don't think we're doing that, Timothy. But good out of the box thinking. Good out of the box.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I like some of these different questions, but that one was like, nah, I don't think so. By the way, I see some of you, you know, have followed me on Instagram. Thank you. I'm going to try and do a Q&A also on Instagram, which I'll run. They usually run for about 24 hours. But if you're trying to like DM me, because I get a lot of DMs, it's best to hit me up on Twitter. Just tag it Ask P Train. This way it shows up on a column I have on my screen, and this way I can get to you a lot quicker than I can on Instagram. So just a little FYI there. All right, let's see who else. Just get all the D-line. Okay. All right, so we got this one from Tommy 41 Tommy. Just get all the D-line turn into the 2000 Ravens. Oh gosh, you remember that, Chris, from the Super Bowl? Did you see that Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Remember that D-line?
One of the worst experiences of my life as a Giants fan.
Worst for me too.
I always say it. In the moment, I thought the Eagles game was the worst moment for me as a Giants fan. When Deshaun Jackson returned the punt, and you remember that game, Miracle at the Meadowlands too.
Oh God, yes.
But when I thought about it a couple of years ago, I said, you know what? That was not the worst moment. The worst moment for me ever for a Giants fan was that Super Bowl. The worst moment. It was the most deflating moment I've ever had as a sports fan. The Ravens had like a 13-0, whatever it was. We returned the kick for a touchdown, and all of a sudden I get out of the couch. I'm going crazy. I'm like, we're back in this. The Giants kick off. They return it right back for a touchdown. I'm like, oh, my God. That was the most deflating moment I've ever had as a sports fan. 2 straight kickoffs for touchdowns back to back. But that Ravens defense is, in my opinion, at least in modern-day football, I didn't get to see the 85 Bears. and I'm not trying to knock the 86 Giants. That 2000 Ravens defense is the greatest defense I've ever seen. And I think they only surrendered 10 points a game that year on average in the regular season. It was insane. And they tore us up in that game.
Yeah. I that game was a downer for me, not just because they lost, but the one thing I remember about that one, I came down with the flu that day. I remember going to that game. I was there to cover that Super Bowl, and I came down with the flu the night before because at the time my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, we had gone down together, and he got sick. I got sick, and I was like, dang it, there's nothing. And that's like the second Super Bowl I got sick. I was also sick for Super Bowl 46. Came down with a cold.
I was sick for Super Bowl 46.
I was fine for Super Bowl 42, which is why I always say Super Bowl 42 is my favorite. That week was just perfect. It was perfect as it can get. I can sit here and talk about that all night if I had to. But Super Bowl 46, I remember I was just coming off cancer treatments actually, and I was sick as a dog because my resistance wasn't up, and I had been out in the rain, and I developed a high fever, and oh my gosh, I remember, thank God my husband was with me because I probably would have gotten on a plane and gone to Timbuktu or something. That's how out of it I was. And I'm lucky I didn't have to go to the hospital when I got home because I had a high fever. But
it's funny you say that because I was supposed to go to a party for Super Bowl 46 and I had the flu. I got the flu, so I had to stay at home the whole game. But I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I always say this: the whole game, I was kind of like, obviously it's the Super Bowl. I was frantic, and the funniest thing was when Eli got the ball with like 3 minutes to go, I was as calm as I was throughout the entire game. I turned to her and she's like, "Why aren't you? There's only 3 minutes left. The Giants lose." I'm like, "This game's over. Giants won." Because I saw Eli that entire year with the 2-minute drill. Whenever the game was on the line, he went right. I knew it. I knew he was going to go right down the field and score in that Super Bowl. That to me is still one of the greatest years I've ever seen a quarterback have. Eli Manning in that season in 2011, he was incredible, start to finish.
He really was. He really was. That was just, that was one of actually my favorite chapters to research for the book that I wrote, The Big 50. You can see the poster behind me. That's the cover. That was a fun one. But again, because I was just coming off cancer treatments, I don't think I really enjoyed the experience as I did the first one. Plus the fact they were playing the Patriots again. I was like, dang damn it, the Patriots again.
Well, and plus the first time you had it was the undefeated Patriots. It was
I just felt like something, like the sequel wasn't. The result was as good, but just the lead up to it, it was like, I
say it all the time. The first Super Bowl trumps the second by a mile. The second Super Bowl. When they won the first Super Bowl, the first thing I thought about was just the team as a whole. I thought about Michael Strahan. He finally got his ring. We knocked off the undefeated Patriots. The second Super Bowl, it was Eli. That's who I thought about. I was like, okay, now nobody could knock Eli anymore. He got his second ring. He's a Hall of Famer. That season to me was about Eli and Cruz and all that. But yeah, I agree with you. The first one trumps the second one by a mile.
Yeah, speaking of Eli in the Hall of Fame, that's going to be a debate. I can just see that coming up because already people are saying he doesn't deserve to get in. But that's a topic for another show, obviously. All right, our guy Tudo, our entire team's going to chip in to buy Tana a new big TV on Friday morning.
Hopefully not. Hopefully you don't got to do
Tudo,
that.
what about me?
He's saying I'm going to break my TV, so they're going to have to get me a new one.
Yeah, but my TV, I don't even have a TV in my bedroom. So, I mean, I can't even, or my husband honks the TV. So, if I want to watch TV, I got to watch it on my little rinky-dink laptop, which I'm beating the heck out of anyway. So don't I count? I'm just kidding, Tudo. I just wanted to give you a shout out, man, because you're always nice enough to say hello to me every day, as is, I think Christopher. Is it Andrew Christopher or Christopher? There's another.
Hi, Andrew Christopher.
Yeah, Andrew Christopher always says hi, and I see it. If I don't respond, I get a lot of obviously feedback, but I do see the comments and I appreciate them, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. So
there he is. He just said it. He just said hi.
Hey, what's going on, my man? All right, got a few more before we call it a night. JJ, I think that says JJM. Why are people automatically out on DJ? Because when you think about it logically, with a much better offensive play call, DJ will play better, right? Well, yes and no.
I think it's faith.
Yeah, I think it's an answer. Yes and no. I'll let you go first, Chris, and then I'll weigh in.
Yeah, I think for people that at this point believe in Daniel Jones and think like JJM, I suppose, does, and think that he can be really good to great with all the improved variables, the offensive line, the scheme. It's faith because, conventional wisdom would tell you he should be better, but we've got to see it first, right? We haven't seen consistency. We haven't seen him stay on the field. So for people that believe in him, it's based, off of traits. You see potential, you see glimpses, but it's mainly based off of faith. People who no longer believe in him, they said, all right, I've seen 3 years of this guy. I've seen enough. I know what he is, and I don't believe he's going to get good enough to the point where I feel like he's a long-term answer.
Yeah, and then the other thing, see, yes, a better scheme will help. Yes, a better offensive line will help. But what's going to help him with the mental processing, which right now, he's got to speed up that clock in his head. It's off. He's got to make faster decisions. That's stuff on him. He's got to make smarter decisions. That's on him. So, yes, the improved offensive line and the better scheme will help, but that's not the only factor. That's got to, you got to take everything into consideration. So that's why I say, not necessarily. Fabian, my man, you've been so kind. You've been telling people to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Please, folks, if you haven't already done it, we would appreciate it. I'm trying to get this channel to 5,000 subscribers because if I do, I've got a giveaway for all you guys. So you want to, yes. I mean, the first two milestones I hit 1,000, 2,000. I got a little something from Locked On. I said, if I hit 5,000, I'm going to do something for all the wonderful people who like, subscribe, and support this channel. So please like, subscribe, and support. Follow Fabian's little tip. Fabian, thank you for that. I appreciate that as always. Let's see. I'm just looking real quick because we've got a bunch of, by the way, if I don't get to your questions, please send them to me. You can send them to LockedOnGiantsPodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet them to me at, you can see my Twitter handle at the bottom there. Tag them, Ask P-Train, P-T-R-A-I-N. This way they will show up on my screen because I will be doing mailbags both on the podcast and on Giants Country. We'll kind of be doing them all weekend long because I'm sure everybody will have questions. Everybody will have probably feedback on what the Giants do. And I do want to, accommodate as many people as I can. There's been a lot here, and I'm just trying to get to as many people as I can, at least for the first time. But your questions have been wonderful. So I thank you for that. Let me see if there's anybody else we have to see. Okay, this is a new one. Robert Riccio, what do you think if we trade Bradbury and 36 to the Chiefs to move up and get one of the top 3 interior offensive linemen?
Yeah, I brought that up as a possibility in the past on my channel, like taking 36 and Bradbury moving up to 29. Like a 7-pick difference. Which is I did the math based off the points. It's kind of comparable to like a late 3rd round pick based off the 7-pick difference. But yeah, I mean, I think that's something that if you can do that, that's something you entertain. And it may make sense for the Chiefs. You're looking at a team that is trying to compete for a Super Bowl. They clearly have a need at the cornerback spot, but it also depends on what cornerbacks are there and whether or not they think those young cornerbacks could develop quickly because they're looking to compete for a championship. So I don't know. It depends on who's there on the board for them. Like I like the guy out of Florida. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but he's kind of being mocked to go in the back end of the first round. A lot of people have him going to the Chiefs at cornerback prospect. So it depends, I guess, who's on the board for them and whether or not it makes sense for a team. I don't know if you'd be able to do a trade like that, but it would be ideal if one of those interior offensive line fell to that spot and you were able to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely going to take at least 2 offensive linemen. One obviously to start, one to develop. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up a couple in undrafted free agents too. I don't know exactly how many undrafted free agents they'll be able to get, but something to keep an eye on for sure. All right.
Elam, by the way, that's his name. I think it's like Khaira Elam. Chino said it, the cornerback from Florida.
Yeah. All right. Toasty says, should we take a punter in the 6th round? Toasty, I'm glad you brought that up because I was watching Jamie Gillian punt at the minicamp last week. And it was a windy day. And, what struck me about Jamie Gillian is that, this is a guy who came from Cleveland. All right, which has had some funky weather with winds and bad weather and whatnot. And I thought, okay, so he should be used to it. His punting at the mini camp was all over the map. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. Now, I don't know if something else was brewing there, but I was not very encouraged by what I saw from Jamie Gillian. So should the Giants draft a punter in the 6th round? I don't know, man. I'd be reluctant to do it because this team just has so many needs. But, Chris, what do you think?
I wouldn't be blown away if they did it. I don't think they will. I like you said, they got 9 picks. You need to address more important needs on this team. You could probably sign an undrafted free agent punter that, how many punters get drafted? I don't know, 2, 3, 4. So, you could probably sign a guy that you don't have to waste a draft pick on. I definitely think they're going to bring in another punter. I'll say that for sure. Right? And that's something that needs a lot of improvement. That has not been good for the Giants the last couple of years. I wouldn't scream if they did it in the 6th round with their last pick, but I doubt it. I think they'll maybe try to get a lineman there with that 6th pick, or I don't know, maybe a guy with some high upside at a skill position. But I would be surprised if they take a punter.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's do one more, my friend, and then we will call it a night because some of us got to start getting their Z's in. Just can't hack it anymore like I used to. But anyway, Brett Brownstein, excuse me. Give us a bold prediction for the 1st round. Ooh. I got to think about this one. What are you thinking, Chris? Bold prediction.
Are we just talking about anybody or are we talking Giants specific or any team?
I'm assuming Giants.
Maybe it means any team because he says first.
I would think Giants. I'm thinking in terms of Giants for my answer.
I don't know if I have a bold prediction for the Giants. I think they're pretty cut and dry. I think they're going, like I said, I think they're going line. I think they're going corner with the slight possibility of going edge with that 7th pick. Outside of a trade down, I don't really see a shocker for the Giants. In terms of
all right, then let's talk 1st round in general.
Yeah. I'm all right. I will say. I'm believing.
I'm going to say a receiver I'm going to say a receiver goes in top 10.
Top 10. Yeah, I think they will. I think the Jets will take a receiver at 10 at the latest.
If they don't get Samuel.
Yeah. If they don't get Samuel, I think they will take a wide receiver. I'll say this. Okay, here's a bold prediction, and I'm not mocking this. I still think he's going to go early, but I won't be shocked if Kayvon Thibodeau drops a lot further than people think. I'll say that. I won't be shocked.
I could see that.
Yeah,
maybe he falls out of the top 10.
I won't be he's like the one guy that I think people have penciled in for sure to be a top 4, 5, 6 pick. I won't be shocked if he falls further than people think. That one will not start me on draft line.
Yeah. That wouldn't shock me. I mean,
I'll give another one.
Okay.
Bold prediction. No quarterback goes in the first 15 picks.
Ooh.
Unless there's a trade up. But no quarterback goes in the first 15 picks. Maybe the Steelers trade up to 12 or 13, but I don't think the Panthers go quarterback. Here's a bold prediction.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking Giants only, but like you said, Giants is pretty cut and dried. I mean, for me, a bold prediction would be, and it's funny because I remember saying this in my very, 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 very first mock that I did. I said, I could see the Giants taking a receiver. And it's funny now because, Jeremiah, and again, it could be a smoke screen. Jeremiah's mocking a Giants to the Giants. I'm sorry, mocking a receiver to the Giants. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a wild ride. I can't wait to get started.
There's going to be something crazy that happens. It happens in every draft.
It really does. I mean, just when you think you know what's going to happen, something funky goes down, and you sit there and you go, wow, I didn't see that happen. And I know in the media workroom, when something unusual happens, we sit there and we go, holy crap, we didn't see that coming at all. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be a wow moment at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, your guess is as good as mine. There'll be 1 or 2 things tomorrow night that you're like, and hopefully it's not with the Giants.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell did that team do? So we'll see. I'm excited to see what happens, though.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
about the guy I just mentioned? Maybe Elam goes a lot higher, the cornerback. I like him. Maybe he goes a lot higher than people think. Hopefully not, but
Yeah.
if it's the Giants. But something, there's going to be a player that people feel is going to be like a in that 20 range that'll go like top 7 or 8, and people be blown away. And then there probably will be a player or two that people think are for sure a first-round pick that goes into day 2. That always happens every year. It's going to happen tomorrow night.
It sure is. Well, I can't wait to get started. Chris, tell everybody what you got on tap starting tomorrow, and then I'll tell everybody what I'm doing.
Yeah, I will be live tomorrow. I've been doing a midday show this whole week, alternating with Bad Dog. So I think that'll be on my channel tomorrow from 11 to 1-ish. And then we'll be doing like every year, we'll be live streaming the draft. So that'll be on Bad Dog's channel tomorrow night, then back on my channel for day 2. So yeah, and I might do a live Twitter after this. I haven't decided yet. We'll see if I have enough energy, but I'm excited for the draft. I appreciate you for having me on. Like you said, we'll definitely talk and try to set something up after the draft to give our opinions based off of the picks the New York Giants made.
Yeah, we'll see if, whether we do it before the mini camp or after, but we'll definitely look to do something. For me, folks, I will have, of course, content on Giants Country. We have a few more things that we need to roll out over there. As far as the podcast goes, I'm going to probably do shorter shows and then do one big show at the end over the weekend. I am planning to pod all the way through to Sunday and then picking up on the usual Monday. So we'll be doing that. And if you've been looking at the little banner at the bottom there, we're going to have Locked On NFL Live. So that's going to be going on. Over on Instagram, I will open up a Q&A. I may even do an Instagram Live. I think that's what they're called. But I have to see how the timing goes. At the very least, I'm going to do a Q&A over there. If you want to follow me over there, it's at PattyTraina on like my Twitter account, which is Patricia_Traina. And of course, on Twitter, as stuff comes up, we'll do mailbags all weekend long. So hit me up, tag it, Ask P-Train. That is so important because that will show up in the column it needs to show up. So this way I don't lose it. Because I hate it when somebody says, oh, I sent you a question. I'm like, but it didn't show up. And then I go and I look in my mentions, which I get a ton of, and there it is. So please tag it, Ask P-Train. And just, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining Chris and I tonight. I had a blast, Chris. I hope you did as well. I hope everybody else enjoyed it. And ladies and gentlemen, we will both catch you at different times this weekend. Enjoy the draft, and I hope you get everything your heart desires in this draft. Take care, everybody.